Waterloo Council meeting of Monday, April 23rd, 2018, continuing on at 6:30 p.m. First off is our moment of reflection and just a statement that earlier this afternoon, a tragic incident occurred in North Toronto. Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families and friends. We think of the City of Toronto's first responders, police, fire, paramedics, hospital staff, as well as Mayor Tory and Council as this continues to evolve. And as part of our meeting, we always have a moment of reflection. At the beginning of this council meeting, we pause to think about the needs of our community. May we show wisdom and compassion in all our decisions. So first up, item 4A is the Mayor and Council for a Day contest winners. Welcome, Mayor. How are you?
Good.
Good. Here, let's just put the microphone down so we can hear you. So how are you?
I'm good.
Good. And maybe you can tell us about Council for a Day. Talk about your idea. Introduce yourself, school, and what your idea was.
My name is Alyssa Panda. I go to Mellon Woods Public School, and my one idea to make Waterloo a better place to live is to put more art into it. Wonderful.
Now maybe we should go around the council table, and maybe we start with Councillor Kennedy over there, and I have a handy list of all the names, reminder, and to go ahead and ask them to do the same thing, so they can introduce themselves.
Okay.
So call on
Kennedy.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kennedy. I go to Elizabeth Ziegler, and my idea to make Waterloo a better place is to interact more with homeless people.
Call on Councillor Alex.
My name is Alexander Morick. I'm from St. Matthew Catholic School, and my one idea is to form a welcoming committee for new community members.
Great. And it appears that Councillor Nathan Flores could not join us tonight, so we will continue on with Councillor
Brianna.
Hello, my name is Brianna, and I go to the KW Bilingual School. My idea was to create more volunteer opportunities for younger kids under the age of 14.
Okay, wonderful. And it happened to be Volunteer Week last week as well, so good idea to have a good week to have that idea.
Councillor Alexia.
Hi, my name is Alexia Breeze, and I go to Edna Stabler Public School. My one idea to make Waterloo a better place was to allow backyard campfires in the city.
All these years, I've thought it was actually Councillor Brian Burke's microphone that was so loud.
Councillor Jay.
My name is Jay, and my one idea to make Waterloo a better place is to provide more sports for immigrant and refugee children.
Wonderful.
And Councillor Claire.
My name is Claire DeConing. I go to Keatsway Public School, and my one idea was to launch a community cycling day.
Wonderful. And I'm sure Councillor Diane Freeman, who's an avid cyclist, would be proud to be here today. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight. What we did is we put together a set of slides, a set of pictures of what we went through during the day. And maybe what we can do is go around the table, and as we go through these slides, each person can take a turn on the next slide saying what we were doing at that point in time on the full council for a day. And it was amazing. The students wouldn't leave after the end of 10 hours. You're a good council. Good. So let's go with the slides. And Councillor Kennedy, do you remember what that was?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Would you like to tell everyone?
So that was after we got out of Rim Park to go to
Oh, we'll see that next. But what were we riding in?
the limo bus.
Yeah, riding in style.
What
limo
happened
bus.
on that limo bus?
Livery.
Nope.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Okay, and there's just before he took off, and do you remember that, Alex?
Yeah, this was us about to start the party on the limo bus.
No party. Remember, there was no party on the limo bus, just all meetings and talking. We'll have to remember not to put that slide next year. Next.
That was when we were at the food bank, and we were just in the main lobby.
Yeah. Oh, and there's Nathan, who's not here tonight. But.
I have no idea where that is.
I'll give you a hint. It was in the last slide, too.
Oh, we're at the food bank.
We're still at the food bank where we saw the giant freezer.
Yes,
that enormous freezer?
the giant freezer.
And it was incredibly cold in there.
It was cold.
Very cold in there. Next.
This was also at the food bank, and we were watching the volunteers sort the food.
I bet you I see some marshmallows there. That'd be good around a campfire. Yes.
This was at the fire station where we looked at the fire trucks and how they go up to buildings and roofs.
Wonderful.
We were getting a tour of the fire trucks and at the Waterloo fire department.
And that helmet that they lent me was incredibly heavy, surprisingly. So very good helmets that they have there, firefighters. Oh.
That was when we were given a tour of the fire trucks, and we got to look at all the equipment inside.
This is us after coming out of the cold when we were looking at the ladder go up.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is when we came out of the garage with the fire trucks, going to lunch.
And what are you on there?
I am climbing the pole.
That's the
I was trying to
honorary
climb the pole.
firefighter's pole.
Yeah.
This was in the kitchen of the fire station. We had homemade macaroni and cheese with Doritos and bacon, with salad, and we also had, I think, 3 chocolate brownies for dessert. It was really good.
Do you remember who cooked?
Chef Patrick.
Chef Patrick, that's right. Next up.
This was when we were all enjoying our delicious dinner.
This was when we got our, I don't know,
That's where we're taking a break. You remember we were coloring then for a bit?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, having a bit of a break with chips and...
That's where we got all our fire station stuff, I don't know.
Good living at that fire station, eh? Yeah.
Yep.
They treat us right. Oh. Oh, and whose smile is that, Kennedy? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Let's give Councillor Alexia the next one. Oh, sorry, Councillor Claire. Sorry about that.
This is when we were playing pickleball, and it was really fun.
Who won at pickleball? Did you beat the mayor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is when we were at the museum, and we got to look at some old artifacts, and we had to figure out what they were.
And I quite like the City Waterloo Museum, which is located where?
In Waterloo.
Very good. Excellent answer. With no prompting from Mom either.
Anything north of University gets
Yes.
a little hazy.
Yeah. So the City Waterloo Museum is at the... What mall were we at?
Conestoga Mall.
That's right.
This is us plugging our ears while the mayor was blowing a huge horn.
Next. Oh, nothing happened on there.
And this is us back in the MLS.
Yeah.
With the lights changed on blue.
This is when we were coming back to City Hall to do a council meeting, and if you can tell, a lot of us look tired.
Particularly the big kid. Okay, next. Or is that it? Oh, we have one more of the council meeting, I think.
This was at City Hall during our council meeting.
Very good. And I think that's it. So wonderful. Now, one of the things that we always want to do is make sure that we make one idea come to life each year. And so Mayor Alyssa will talk a bit about her idea, and we'll move a motion. So do you want to just talk a bit about your idea more, or do you just want to move the motion, or ask for somebody to move this motion?
I think I just want to ask for somebody to move the motion.
Okay, so let's read it out to them.
Council for a Day motion. That City of Waterloo support June 17th to 23rd to be Week of Chalk Art in Your Driveway or Sidewalk. This is in support and recognition of Mayor for a Day Alyssa Panda's submission for more art to be displayed in Waterloo.
So now we need, in order to make this happen, we need somebody in council, grade 5 council, to actually move this motion, and then somebody to second it. So we see one over there, so you call them out.
Kennedy.
And then pick a, council number 2 is?
Alexia.
Okay, then you can ask for further discussion, just in case you have a problem.
Any further discussion?
Which generally means if you don't hear anything, it means there's no problems with it, which is a good thing.
That's very good.
Yeah. So now you call the vote. All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Everyone. Wonderful. Now, I should do the same thing with my council. Can I look for a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Durrell, Councillor Veith. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That would be all of us. Okay, so we now have a special week in Waterloo, which actually starts on Father's Day. And we picked the whole week in case it's rainy, but that might be a good day to get some expert advice, right? Because we know a dad who's pretty good at art, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so we're going to call on Dad to help us out maybe with our first art piece, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yep.
Yep. Think he'll say yes? Is he nodding in the audience? He's good with that. That's good. Excellent. Oh, Councillor Durrell.
Do we have a special hashtag so everyone from across Waterloo can share their cool art?
We will have to create
Chalk
a
art?
special hashtag.
Chalk Art Waterloo?
We will create
We
one.
should totally do that.
We will look for somebody with communications expertise to come up with a hashtag for us. Wonderful. And with that, I think we can go on to other business. So we're going to do a couple of things here more, and till 7 o'clock, we'll see how things go. So next up on our official agenda is Earth Week activities, and Anna Marie Spriani is going to be here to give us all a presentation. And just for the benefit of the parents, we're going to do two things as all of us as council, and then we're going to take a break and hand out some things.
Good evening, mayors and members of council. My name is Anna Marie Cipriani, and I've been asked today to carve some time out of our council meeting tonight because, yes, I want to report that this year so far, 28 local businesses and schools are registered, and there are 2,100 participants. There are still many opportunities to do litter cleanups in our community parks. In particular, we have from April 1st to 30th. And currently, there are 31 neighborhood groups already registered. Registration is available on our website up until Wednesday of this week. So the main attraction, our big event, is yet to come. And this event will happen on April 28th from 1 to 4 at Kiwanis Park. So the City of Waterloo is collaborating with City of Kitchener, volunteers, and local exhibitors. And there's a heap to do. You can plant trees. There will be several birds of prey shows, nature hikes using some technology, an app called iNaturalist. You can build a bird box and learn fun nature facts. Now, at that event, there will be a special announcement at 1:30 p.m. Our mayor will be there, as the City of Waterloo will be recognized as a designated bee city, which means that through our work, we support pollinators and their habitats.
And just to pause on that picture, that's actually not a wine glass, that's a bee that was painted for you on the glass.
So I want to send out a special thank you to Environment and Park staff who put this event together along with your leadership in making this a priority and a possibility within our community. You can follow all of these events by following our website and activity as it populates at waterloo.ca/Earth Day. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Anne-Marie. Any questions for Anne-Marie from any of our councillors? Anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions? Councillor
Where did you find that stinger of a tie that the mayor's wearing?
That was by special request. They asked me to wear my bee tie, so there you go. Further questions? Seeing none, maybe we'll see some of any of these councillors there, maybe even the mayor there, maybe both mayors there, you never know. We'll have to see how it works with your schedule. Never know. Good work. Thank you very much, Anne-Marie. Next up, we're going to hear about the Open Ears Festival of Music and Sound with Richard Burrows.
Thank you very much. I want to take this opportunity to thank Amy Ross and Councillor Angela Veith for having me here today to talk to you about this fantastic festival that's coming up at the end of May. This is actually going to be our 20th anniversary. We are very excited to be able to showcase some amazing international and national talents as well as local artists from around Waterloo region. We are going to be beginning our festival celebrating the great achievement of Peter Hatch. He has recently retired as a professor of composition from Wilfrid Laurier University. And as part of that celebration, we've decided to use the three words transform, transport, and transcend. This is a way that we're bringing a transformative process of art to this community to really showcase how great of a Waterloo region is for arts and culture. We have 25 events that are going to happen over the course of 5 days, beginning on Wednesday, May 30th. And this is going to be our opening ceremonies where we're going to fet Peter Hatch. He's going to be actually in attendance, and we're going to be bringing back some fantastic board members from the past 20 years, as well as giving special awards to our general managers from the previous festivals, who were Marianne Leach and Cheryl Ewing. We're going to be highlighting some fantastic artists from the region, including the Penderecki String Quartet, and as well as an ensemble that I'm a part of called the Torque Percussion Quartet. On Thursday, we have our 6 activities in total. At 5 o'clock, we're going to be having an interview with a very famous DJ named Toshimaru Nakamura. He's coming all the way from Japan and bringing his electronic talents to this region. This is going to be an interview process, sort of a pre-concert chat right downtown at the TWH Social. At 6 o'clock, we're going to have a contemporary dance show that comes from Guelph. At 7 o'clock, we're going to be doing our Music Box outreach with Jason Dole. Jason is an artist from Toronto, and he's going to be involving 15 participants from all over the region to teach them the art of punch card composition for music boxes. So we're going to highlight these artists on the Saturday show, and they literally will crank a small music box playing their compositions that they will learn throughout the week. At 8 p.m. we are very excited about this brand new octet that's going to be occurring between Penderecki and Torque, and this is in collaboration with True North Waterloo as well as the museum. True North Waterloo, as you know, are having a 3-day festival, and on the Thursday night they are showcasing the contemporary and classical talents of Waterloo region, and so we are going to be partnering with them in the museum to highlight this fantastic event. It's going to feature, again, Penderecki and Torque, and as well there's going to be a world premiere by a very famous Canadian composer named Nicole Lizet. We just got word from the Canada Council that they have fully funded this, so we're very excited about this evening. And our late night programming is also part of our guest curator series. This is local artist Ben Grossman, and he's brought together some local artists, Valentine and Harms duo, Sound of the Mountain duo, which come all the way from Montreal, and as I previously stated, Nakamura and Tact. Nakamura is from Japan, and Tact is from Norway. So we're bringing some fantastic international artists to this region. Here's a few photos of Penderecki String Quartet and Torque, which we're very excited to be bringing together for a brand new concert. On the Friday, we actually are going to be showcasing our first Uptown Waterloo series, and this is going to be part of the Noon Hour series. We're working together with Josh Bean, developing a bigger presence of open ears here in the Waterloo region. And so at noon, we're going to be showcasing local musicians Jason White and Pam Patel in a fun, quirky cabaret style right in the center square. They play everything from AC/DC to Frederick Jeffsky, so it's some pretty interesting stuff. 2 p.m. is going to be our outreach component. Now, the elementary schools are going to be on a PD day, so we're highlighting the high schools, which is something that I know a lot of the high schools in this area are very excited about. We're bringing over an ensemble from Austria that is going to play the music of Frank Zappa. And so we're going to be bringing in students from all over the region. Part of our mandate, we understand that financial constraints are always an issue with schools, is that we pay for all the school buses and for the tickets in order to bring the students to the theater to get that concert experience. So it really enriches the livelihood of arts and culture in our region. At 6 p.m., Studio Dan is going to be doing a concert for the general public. And so for those of you who are Zappa fans in the audience, be sure to get your tickets early. At 7 o'clock again, we're going to host another music box workshop. This is going to be a continuation of the very first. So there's going to be 15 people who continue through the 2 nights, Thursday, Friday, and then we'll be performing on the Saturday. At 8 p.m., we've highlighted and collaborated with the KW Chamber Music Series. This is with Jan and Jean Narveson, famous for their Yonge Street Music Room. So we brought in an emerging saxophone duo from Toronto called Stereoscope. And the late night activities on Friday is going to be downtown. This is called the Blue Dot. This is very famous for this region. It's run by a gentleman named Ian Newton. It's kind of an experimental dance to new music, sound installations. It really is just an incredible experience altogether, and it runs from 10 p.m. until late. Saturday is our big day. And this is going to start from 11 a.m. We hosted a emerging composer competition across Canada. We got 11 entries from Halifax to Vancouver, and our winning entry is a composer who actually went to Laurier University but is a resident of Vancouver. And so we're going to premiere her work at Victoria Park. It's going to involve over 60 musicians moving around the park through the island, and so we're inviting people to come down to enjoy. This is actually a free program for us, the 11 a.m. show. At 1 p.m. we're bringing in No Hey Banda. This is an avant-garde ensemble from Montreal. We're going to be performing at the Registry Theatre. We're going to be showcasing Tony Conrad's Completely in the Presence. This is a documentary that the original Princess Cinema is going to be hosting. At 5 p.m. we're going to be doing a very cool CD release party of Toronto-based artist Jason Dole. He's also the composer who worked with the Music Box compositions. And 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. we have a very famous composer and musician from New York, Nico Muhly and Nadia Sirota. These are really two of the hottest composers and performers in what they call an indie classical genre, and we're very, very excited to be bringing them up. Nico was a contemporary of Philip Glass, if you're familiar with his compositions, and so Nico's going to be coming all the way here to Kitchener-Waterloo to showcase his artistry. We're very excited about that. Our late night programming is going to be Onion Honey, which is a local folk band. They're going to be performing again at TWH Social. Which brings us to our final day on Sunday. There's Nico and Nadia. On Sunday, we're going to be highlighting Ojibwe artist Barbara Krall. We're going to be highlighting her works. We have hired local musicians. We have a new initiative here that went through the Region of Waterloo Arts Fund called New Ears Ensemble. This is a collaboration between Numis, which is the concert series that runs during the fall and winter, and Open Ears. We're going to be featuring local musicians playing artists that are outside the region. That's going to be played down at the Walper Hotel Oak Room. At 3 p.m. we're playing the new music for choir. This is going to be directed by Mark Voronin, famous for Grand Philharmonic direction. These are going to include works by Nico, and Nico is actually going to stick around and be able to chat with our audiences after the show. And then our final piece for this, for the concert portion of this, is going to be a piece called Illimac, featuring a contemporary drum set artist named Ben Reimer. For those of you who are gearheads like I am as a percussionist, you can see the large mass array of cymbals and drums that are going to basically fill the Apollo Theater downtown. We also have, as part of our concerts, sound installations, and these sound installations will actually stay within the region for many weeks on end. The Parable 2, Amadinda and Tubellum are going to stay at the museum in downtown Kitchener for the entire summer on display. And then we have a brand new work. It's going to be a world premiere by Nico that will be in the region. We have Arena by Kafka, presented by Kafka, and Gordon's going to speak a little bit more about that. And then finally, we were really excited to be co-presenting with KWAG, to be Speaking to Their Mother by Rebecca Belmore. For those of you who aren't familiar with Rebecca's work, she was famous for going onto the Parliament Hill during the Meech Lake Accord in the early 90s, and she created this massive horn and had Indigenous elders speak their mind to the current to that government at that time. And this beautiful emblem of peace and at the same time of anarchy is coming to this region for the very first time, and we are so excited to be fortunate to have this opportunity to showcase Rebecca's work. Festival passes are on sale now. They're $125, gets you into all 5 days, and gets you in to see the sound installations. And those are going to be on sale until May 4th, when you bump the price up to $150. So we want to make sure you get your festival passes in now. And lastly, we want to thank our sponsors. We cannot make this happen, of course, without the fantastic support from federal, municipal, and provincial levels as well. We are recently just signed on with Zeitspace as our very first tech company in the region to believe in the arts and culture in this region and really start to stand behind what it means to be such a great, fantastic community. So once again, thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the audience.
Thank you very much, Richard. Questions for the delegate, and then we have another one coming up. Councillor Veith, please.
Not really a question. I just want to say thank you, Richard, for all the work. That we are so fortunate to have all of this amazing music and talent coming to our region, and I'm especially really happy about all of the collaborations, all the with the tech community, all of the local musicians, and yeah, it's quite a feat. So anyway, I just want to thank you for coming, for all your enthusiasm, and I'm looking forward to the weekend.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, and with that, I'll ask Gordon Hatt to join us.
Thank you, Mayor Jaworski and Council. Better speak into the mic. I feel really privileged, first of all, to be able to work with Richard. Kafka and Open Ears have been collaborating for a number of years now, and I guess it's been since 2014 that we've tried to bring our festivals together at the same time of year in the late spring, so that we can create some kind of synergy and some critical mass between of contemporary art events. And also is really interesting that we have almost what you could call a Venn diagram of intersection, where Open Ears does sound sculpture, sound art, and we have many artists who also work with sound. So you can see we have these really interesting areas of overlap, and I think when we work together, we provide a real high energy charge of what contemporary art can bring to this community. June 2nd to July 1st is when Kafka will be happening this year. You can see our website, www.kafka.org, where we are daily posting new information about our upcoming projects. Would we advance the slide here? Or am I doing this? Sorry.
So you just have to click the left one, or you can use spacebar.
Okay, great, thanks. This year we will be presenting, we're working with 16 artists, which are featuring some of the sound installations by Open Ears, as well as programs by the University of Waterloo Art Gallery and the Critical Media Lab and Kitchener Waterloo Art Gallery. We have 5 partner organizations. Actually, just yesterday we have a 6th partner organization that's jumped on board. We've organized 8 school tours so far. We have 7 public workshops organized. We have 5 Kafka Family Days at the Kitchener Market. We're doing a tour in French this year, and a tour in Mandarin, and a tour in Spanish of the exhibition. We're going to be doing our bike tours again, which are very popular. I think we'll do a tour, an extended tour to Cambridge, where Don Russell will be working in the rare charitable preserve. And we'll be doing an alley cat rally, which is a lot of fun. It's a kind of you get a sheet with quizzes that you have to answer, and you have to ride around, you have to find the artwork, and you have to answer the question on the sheet, and then you come back and you end up at Jack Burger, and it's like prizes are offered according to your time and your accuracy. We'll be doing pub crawls again. They're very popular, and coffee crawls. We'll be participating in a symposium with the University of Waterloo Art Gallery and the University of Waterloo Department of Fine Arts. And crunching the numbers last year, we had over 70,000 people see some or all of Kafka 16. So we're hoping again that we will be public, front and center, that people will enjoy the work we're doing and engage with it. We had 60 volunteers in 2016, and they provided 1,700 volunteer hours. So there's a lot of people giving a lot of time to make Kafka happen. The theme for this year is Recognize Everyone. It's a title that comes from an association game that was developed by one of Kafka's artists this year. And it's a really simple game. Lucy Pullen and Victoria Kent, who's on our board, they were traveling together, and they were in strange places, and they said, how do we fit in here? How do we make this feel like home? And so they started identifying people who looked like people they knew at home. And they identified them by, oh, that looks like so-and-so, or that person walks like so-and-so, or that person has hair like somebody else. And so by doing that, they made it possible to feel at home, that a strange place was no longer strange. So for us, it seemed like a great metaphor of what we're trying to do here. Kafka is a collection of artists and people in the cultural community who are trying to make a home. And we're trying to communicate with other people. We're trying to be part of this community and talk about what we do and what we love. And so Recognize Everyone is a way to engage in the community in a very creative and participatory way. Just listing our curatorial partners: Open Ears, of course, University of Waterloo Art Gallery, Kitchener Waterloo Art Gallery, Critical Media Lab, and as I said this morning, the Cambridge Sculpture Garden is coming on board. And our festival partners, Open Ears gets to play both roles here because they're both a festival and a curatorial contributor, Open Ears and the Summer Lights Festival. And just going to quickly run through some of the projects. This is Andrienne Abondance-Bergeron of Montreal, Quebec. She'll be doing a large suspended linear sculpture. Will be suspended from the ceiling of the City of Kitchener, or Kitchener City Hall Rotunda. This is Marcia Weir. Unfortunately, she's working on her piece and doesn't have any images that she can give me, but she's going to do 150 inflatable objects that will be installed at the Winners intersection at Conestoga Mall. And they will all be controlled by a microprocessor so that she's able to program the time and the pattern of inflation. So there'll be waves of inflation and alternate inflations. So we're really looking forward to this really inventive piece. A squeezable pink inflatable figure by New York artist Yunjun Wang will be on top of one of the wings of the Kitchener City Hall. Toronto-based artist Susan Blight will be doing a series of flags recognizing the stewardship of Indigenous people in the region. Marie-Claire LeBlanc Flanagan is an artist who works with gaming technology. This is one of her games. This is not the game that she'll be providing for Kafka 18, but she will do pop-ups. She will be around the region in coffee shops, and public places, and she'll be inviting people to play her game. She'll bring her own technology, and she'll be inviting people along. I Carry Your Heart With Me, I Carry It In is a poem by E.E. Cummings, and the artist, the media artist Don Matheson, has made a video of Nora Stankiewicz, who's is a 9-year-old Guelph resident who does it in ASL, and we'll be projecting that on the cube of the City Hall, and we'll be showing it as a trailer before movies at the Princess Theatre and at the Apollo Theatres. This is one that's been keeping me up at nights. This is Arena. It's an interactive sound sculpture by Benoit Maubry of Berlin. And the design consists of 300 working speakers, all wired to a series of amplifiers, a mixing board with Bluetooth capability, 1/4-inch and 1/8-inch phone jacks, an answering machine. Yeah, so it's got a lot of electronics in it. And if you want to know where we get these speakers, I've been dumpster diving lately, I have to admit. I've been going all over Southern Ontario looking for speakers, and I've been up to my neck in them. So, Sunny Lumiere during Summer Lights by an organization called At the Reception. It'll be an orchestra tuning up, split onto a number of FM channels and an accompanying video. A walk-in mural by Lucy Pullen at 27 Gaukel Street, which is the new Thalmic building. So it's going to be a mural on the wall, and it's also going to be on the fire escape that surrounds that, that elevator shaft. So it'll be a really remarkable experience going up and down that fire escape. A Burning Stone Circle, symbolizing the reclamation of land for Indigenous community members, will be at the Rare Charitable Reserve. It's a circular fire pit that'll be surrounded by 2 rows of stones. Clay will be packed into the bottom of it, and there will be combustible material on top, and it will burn, and that clay will be hardened. St. Marie and Walker is the artistic duo of Denise St. Marie and Tim Walker, and they're working with members of the KW Midtown community, talking about ideas, how they want their community to be, what they fear, what they dream of, and we're going to make thought balloons, and we're going to attach them to a series of light posts in the Midtown KW community. So it should be fun, an opportunity for us to stand under the thought balloons, maybe have our pictures taken, maybe circulate them on social media. We'll see what happens. Anna Van Milligan, some of you may know her. She was a graduate of the University of Waterloo Fine Art program. Did a piece called Dollhouse, which you're looking at here now in the Airstream trailer that belongs to the University of Waterloo Fine Art Department. She'll be working in the Berlin Tower Gallery at the Kitchener City Hall, creating again an immersive environment of glamour fetish. So, just thinking about who I forgot to put on here. Canada Council has been a great supporter. The City of Kitchener, always a great supporter. Ontario Arts Council is a supporter of Kafka. This year we were very fortunate to get a significant grant from Celebrate Ontario, Region of Waterloo, Musagetes, Kitchener-Waterloo Community Foundation, and the City of Waterloo. And I want to thank you for your support and the support of your staff, which has been very, very interested and very supportive of Kafka this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gordon. Questions or comments for this one? Councillor Veith?
Again, thank you, Gord, for coming tonight. Is this, so this part of the event is free, or is that?
All of our installations and projects are free to the general public. We don't charge for any of our projects.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, and thank you for talking about the Open Ears Festival as well as the Kafka installations this spring, which will be right during our Chalk Art Week. So that'll be exciting, eh? We're right in tune with the community, so it's good news for us. And with that, I think it's time for us to give you some parting gifts as you make your way back to study at home or something like that. You probably have homework to do, no? No homework? Oh, well. This is going to be like the day where after 10 hours nobody wanted to leave here. But I think it'll be like before, where the parents and your siblings would like to leave as well. But take one dad who's got a Maple Leaf shirt on, Maple Leaf jersey on. So in your parting bag, there's actually going to be sidewalk chalk, and there are going to be 3 of them. One is for you, one is for your schoolroom, and one is for your school, in case other teachers want to do chalk of the sidewalk that week. We also have something you probably haven't seen before. You know what this is? Let's see, a photo album. So in the old days, you used to print pictures, and since I'm from the old days, we print the pictures so you always have them, and they're all in order. It's kind of like a smartphone, except it always works, no power required. And then we also have our Waterloo Illustrated History, 1857 to 2007. Well, what year were you born?
I was born in 2007.
Perfect. So this goes right up to the year you guys were born. So isn't that wonderful? You know everything from the 2007 onward, and here's all the rest of the story. So now you know. Now you know. Good. Okay. And so with that, if any parents would like to take pictures, we'll each escort our counselor, or mayor in my case, to the side here, and we'll get you some awards here. Congratulations. Thank you for your great idea. Waterloo. There you go. And counselor. Here. That would be awesome. Thank you. And when you said that in a special question, try not to be shy. Mr. Kerr over there will be looking forward to hearing from you, because he has a lot of it. Thank you. Thank you. Next up, one go to Jay. Thank you very much, Jay, for your wonderful idea.
Awesome. Thanks, Abel.
There you go. Congratulations, Claire. I will. Counselor Henry gets his card, our business card from our counselor. Come on, Brianna. Nicholas?
All right, thank you.
And I will see you all at our pizza parties that we have scheduled over the next coming weeks. And also, what else to know? I think that's about it. Yeah. You're welcome to go home and continue watching this for the next 2 hours, or you can go home and just have some free time, or watch the Rangers, or watch Leafs, or whatever. Yeah, very good. Thank you all very much, and thank you all. So next up, we have items 6A and B. We have minutes to approve. Moved by Councillor Veith, second by Councillor Durrell. All those in favor? Any opposed? Just in favor. Thank you. Next up, reports of committees. 7A, Committee of the Whole report. Moved by Councillor Burke, seconded by Councillor Veith. All those in favor? That's all of us. 6B, we're going to take 7 and 15 separately for Councillor Maven. And so on the balance of the rest of the reports, can I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Durrell, seconded by Councillor Veith. All those in favor of those items? Thank you. Now we'll take item 7, which is the hydro nominees separately. Moved by Councillor Durrell, seconded by Councillor Veith. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? So, oh yeah, I was just going to say, that would defeat the purpose. Okay, all those in favor? And opposed? 1. Okay, thank you. And item 15, which is long-term financial planning, we'll need a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Burke is very attentive. Councillor, need a seconder, Councillor Veith. Commentary, Councillor Maven.
And thank you, Mayor, and thank you, rest of council, for your patience. I thought the recommendation on 15 showed exactly what I was trying to illustrate, in that if you look at recommendations from Finance and FSP Committee, items 1 to 4 in this particular item report, basically they adjust some policies, but they also reduce capital funding. So they've taken capital funding, or these recommendations take capital funding from the current levels to a lower level. And then, on item 5, it says, we're going to transfer to the next council how to deal with the shortfall in funding. And they have to put together the long-term financial plan. And if you recall, that's why I was trying to, I didn't do it very well, I admit that, but I was trying to direct the entire report to the next council rather than tying their hands and then give them the tough work to do. I mean, implicitly from the report, it looks like there's the game plan is to have a tax increase through an infrastructure levy. It's not the only solution, but it's the one that's somewhat implied in the report. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And,
if I may,
please, go ahead.
The way you voted at finance and strategic planning, you don't have to vote the same way here, by the way. Just a little bit of info.
A little promotional item there. Okay, so we have a motion on the table. All those in favor? Any opposed? It is 3-3. It fails. Oh, hold on. Okay. Okay, so the motion on the table is to take the long-term financial plan that came to finance and strategic planning last time around and that we voted on and approved. Well, now it comes from committee to council, and so now we're voting on the same thing again. Councillor Maven wanted to make some points regarding that item. Okay. Okay, so let's do that again. So the motion on the table is a motion to approve what we approved in the FSP meeting last time. So we're just covering that again. So all those in favor of the long-term financial planning item number 15? Any opposed? Okay. Okay, good. Got it. We are there. Consent motion none. Delegation Sustainable Waterloo Region update. Welcome, Tova.
Hello.
Please go ahead. Yes.
Good evening, Mayor Jaworski, Council. It's my pleasure to be here yet again to present some updates on just what we've been up to at Sustainable Waterloo Region. This year marks our 10th anniversary. In our year-end reports, which you should have in front of you, you'll see at the back page that we've highlighted 100 stories of organizations across the region. At our events last year, we had over 1,000 people who came to our events that we've reached and help educate on sustainability within organizations. The impact of one of our programs, the Regional Sustainability Initiative, is the equivalent of 10,000 cars off the road. We actually tried to get a picture of 10,000 cars off the road. You can't actually get that many in one photo, which is super cool. This region's run on data, and we as an organization manage over 100,000 data points, as well as with all the programs that we run or co-lead, over 1 million tons of GHGs are measured, managed, and in many cases targeted to reduce, and altogether that's creating one movement for sustainability here in Waterloo Region. So I'm going to give you some quick updates on what's been happening in programs. I'm not going to say too much about climate action right now. We are bringing that up in a future item this evening. But as you already know, we did the re-inventory this year and saw that we had a 5.2% reduction in carbon in the region last year. Charge WR is a program that's run by Sustainable Waterloo Region looking at electric vehicle charging technology, vehicles and the infrastructure for it. We saw in this past year that there's been a 200% increase in both charging stations and vehicles. So if you look at the rate of growth, very fast, and the goal is to have over 1,000 vehicles in Waterloo Region by 2020, and if we keep this same rate, it looks like we'll do it next year, which is fantastic, well ahead of time. And some of that work has included working with the City of Waterloo and the Government of Canada, GRE, to bring some curbside charging, actually, to Uptown. So it's fantastic. We are working on Evolve, so I don't know, did everybody see the articles over the weekend? There's so many. This building came out of the strategic plan from Sustainable Waterloo Region and our consultation with community with the idea of building a home for sustainability and a demonstration for what's possible. Really excited to say that in August, people will start moving into what is now Canada's first certified carbon neutral building. So it's really exciting. If you're ever at the RNT Park, please go up. It's at 420 West Grandway, right by the LRT stop. You can see the building. This is what it was designed to look like. This is about 3 weeks ago. So it's coming along really, really well. It's been done within a developer's approved budget, and big kudos to the Cora Group, our partner on this. They are building, developing, and will own and manage this building. It's called Evolve 1 because they're planning number 2 across the street because there's a good enough business case for this. Exactly what we were trying to prove. Just wanted to go back as well. There's also the Evolve Green. So this is the ground floor of the Evolve 1 building, and we're working in partnership with the Accelerator Center. Both universities and ourselves will all be there, as well as conversations with municipalities, small businesses, some other not-for-profits, to be a place where the clean tech sector is incubated and a cluster is grown here in Waterloo Region. We know that clean tech is a major driver within the technology industry, and that the sector worldwide is a multi-billion-dollar sector, and Canada's market share is dwindling. So we are striving to change that and to take the leadership that this region has shown in sustainability and tie it really closely to the well-known reputation of technology to be able to build that tech cluster here as well. I'm really excited. I think I told you last year we had some funding from Trillium for that startup, and there is already 3 businesses in a clean tech incubator happening at the Accelerator Center, and they will all move into this space once we all move in. So that's Evolve. The Regional Sustainability Initiative, almost 58,000 tons of greenhouse gases are committed to be reduced in that program. And the exciting thing in this year is we had a bunch of new members. Some of them are here today. We've also had 2 new members this year to kick off the year right. And then we had, before we pop forward, we had actually 10 new targets set last year, the most in our history. So we are moving organizations from the observing level to setting targets. And if you go to the center spread of the year-end report and then open that out even further, you will see all of those targets. We are publicly reporting how they are doing on that work. We also had 13 organizations go to a reporting level, which means that they are measuring their activity in the areas of sustainability through a international standard from B Corps, and they're allowing us to publicly report how they are doing in a percentile. So really working on transparency and making sure organizations are doing exactly as they've committed to in this program. TravelWise program is a partnership with the region of Waterloo, and organizations get resources to help their employees find a way to work that isn't driving alone, carpooling, biking, walking, discounted transit passes, even an emergency ride home service. So if you carpool to work and your kid gets sick, take a cab and we'll reimburse you. So there are 69 tons of CO2 saved in this past year. There are 3,200 users on the GoTravelWise.ca portal. 54,000 trips were logged in 2017, and 503,000 alternate distance kilometers were traveled. And that is what's logged, so it's not the total sum of everything that they do, but what they put into that website. There were a bunch of new members in TravelWise as well. Borealis, Grosh, which is down in Cambridge, the Idea Exchange, Peer Group, and Thalmic Labs. So we have 10 years, but one movement building. Really happy to be partnering with the City of Waterloo in so many different ways. Great members in lots of our programs and great supporters of lots of things that we're doing, including Evolve One. So my thanks, and happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. Always wonderful to hear from you, Tova. First up is Councillor Whaley.
So Tova, it's Earth Week.
It's Earth Week.
And we've had a couple of days of springtime. And we're all feeling so hopeful.
Yep.
And if there's one great hopeful organization in this community, it's Sustainable Waterloo, who's celebrating its 10th anniversary. Congratulations.
Thanks.
But looking forward, you, what makes you hopeful?
Just me? Or
just you and your organization.
Oh, okay.
And you two.
I think the things that are making me really hopeful for this region specifically is what we're going to be talking about in a few minutes, the climate action target, and the recent community energy investment strategy that came forward, the idea of building real foundational change. And I'm seeing a movement towards that. I also know that my counterparts from the Sustainability Advisory Committee, which I also sit on for the city, are going to be talking about green building standards, and it feels like there's big stuff coming, and that we are poised to go from incremental change to transformational change, including behavior and culture shifting, which is where I think the real magic will happen.
Excellent. Further comments or questions from Council? If, Councillor Doe? I saw your microphone move.
Yeah, I just wanted to give some major props on Evolve, because I remember like 5 or 6 years ago going to Borealis restaurant.
5 years, yeah.
5 years ago, and there was maybe about 30 or 40 people. I believe Councillor Whaley, you were one of those people, and just brainstormed this idea, which seemed pretty, I mean, I think we all wanted to believe that it would happen, but I think there was a lot of us in that room going, I don't know. And here you've gone and done it and made national headlines and put the spotlight on something that's really, really, truly amazing in this community. And that's not easy. And so I can only imagine, I know that there's a million people that helped you make this happen, but just kudos to leadership at the top. This is massive. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully you had a tea, toasted yourself.
A little bit. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I think that's it for now, but we'll see you later on in the program, later on in the show. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. First up is staff, under staff reports is Woolwich Street, road closing and disposition of property. A report prepared by John Voss, who I don't think is here, but somebody's probably representing if people have questions on that. Any questions on the planning matter? We have one delegate here to speak. Woolwich Street, we're closing part of a little piece of it and shaving it off and giving it to adjacent, or proposing to have it to go to adjacent property owner. And seeing no particular questions at this time, I'll invite Tom Hardacre up to speak on this.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. My name is Tom Hardacre. I'm planner with the IBI Group. I'm here on behalf of Prison Holdings, a developer of a planned subdivision adjacent to Willett Street. This development started in 1995, and since then the developers registered a number of different phases. One of those being in February of 2008, it registered a phase that included Maverick Street and a significant road widening along Willett Street. Since then, the city has undertaken an upgrade of the road allowance and servicing along Willett Street, and has determined that certain lands are surplus to the needs of the city and Willett Street road allowance. And those surplus lands are identified on the survey attached to the staff report and are identified as parts 1 to 5. On that survey, let me make sure I get the right numbers here. Parts 3, 4, and 5 formed a portion of a road widening dedication that was conveyed by Prison Holdings to the City of Waterloo in 2008 at no charge to the city. It now turns out that those portions of those lands are no longer required. Parts 1 and 2 have always formed part of this Willett Street road allowance. We've reviewed the staff report, and my client is certainly in agreement with the paying his fair market value for the portions 1 and 2 that have always been part of the road allowance, and paying the required administrative fee for conveying the land. My question my client has, and he's asking the city to give favorable consideration, is to not require payment for that portion that was previously conveyed by the applicant to the City of Waterloo, or give favorable consideration, so some kind of adjustment to recognize that previous conveyance. And that, Mr. Mayor, is the extent of my request.
Thank you, Tom. To the clerks, is there any chance we could pull up the attachment on here, which is the map? Because this is, I'm going to look at Mr. Rapp here. I think we're talking about what's in Council Package page 34, page 35. But it's the same sliver that's on page 34, just more details. Is that how it works? Okay. Maybe I get some comments from Mr. Rapp on that.
Certainly, Mayor Jaworski. As noted by Mr. Hardacre, the previous development back in 2008, and I don't question the date that the developer was going through, did require a road widening that would have been established in our official plan at the time. Since that time, a decade since, we've performed an environmental assessment, gone through and done a number of improvements to Willett Street. As a result of that, there is a a portion, I was blending two words there, I stayed away from both of them, a portion of the right-of-way that we no longer need. So it's remnant. As Mr. Hardacre said, parts 1 and 2 were always part of the right-of-way. Parts 3, 4, and 5 are the parcels we obtained in 2008. That is a typical process. It has been 10 years in the making, and we would typically look for the appraised value, fair market value for all parcels if council chooses to sell them off. We've not come across this, or we've not been challenged in this way in the past. I'm not certain, to be honest, if we've seen if this scenario has actually occurred. It wouldn't surprise me. But we have no policy that if the city is no longer in need of it in 1, 2, 5, or 10 years or 20 years of a different process than what's established and what is in front of you tonight, which is under the Municipal Act. When we go through a disposition process, which you're going through tonight, we look for fair market value. The applicant has raised a good point. but there is no policy in place about a time period of a decade or more or less of when they would get those lands back for a reduced rate.
So to recap, my understanding is the request we've received is this land originally belonged to the applicant. We now hold it. Now we want to sell it back to the delegate.
That is correct. We're no longer in need of it, of what we might have believed we needed 10 years ago.
Okay, and then to the delegate, what could you recap what this piece of land was given or sold to the city at, Tom?
It was dedicated to the city free. There was no charge. It was dedicated on the register plan of public road allowance.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that was exactly the case.
That is correct. Through the draft plan of subdivision process or site plan process, the city would have secured the right-of-way or that additional lands at that point, free of charge.
Okay, and I see, before I have an idea here, I'll go with Councillor Whaley, who also has something to say.
Well, I'm a little confused, frankly. I was prepared to sell this land at fair market value plus administrative costs, as was outlined in the recommendation. All this information is new to me. The fact that you owned the land before, that it came into the city's possession at no cost. I don't understand why that would have occurred, and I further do not understand the applicant's request for us to give the land back. It's all new information. I don't understand it, so I'm not prepared to vote on it.
Yeah, and I think that might be the way we go. But Mr. Cotter has some information as well. Go ahead, please.
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, to expand on Mr. Rapp's comments. The draft plan of subdivision was adopted or filed in 1995 and advanced through the city. This parcel of land that we're looking at was part of a road widening that was taken as part of a subdivision through the Planning Act. We take those dedications free of charge, the same as we take the highways within the subdivision as part of the development approval process. So that parcel of land has come into the city's ownership. I think the challenge that we're facing is a provision in the Municipal Act which essentially states that the city has to sell its land at fair market value. So we sympathize and understand the request on behalf of Mr. Hardacre and Kristen's Holdings. We're working within the provisions of the Municipal Act and providing the report to Council.
Okay, so there we go. But we don't have any other advice here. Councillor Maven, please.
Mayor, through you, Mayor. We have a recommendation in front of us. It certainly doesn't hurt to have the developer make a request. It doesn't mean we have to go along with it. I'm prepared to move the recommendation that we have right now.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Whaley would second it, I just heard. Okay. From a question perspective of the fair market value of this land, does anybody have a idea of what the fair market value is? It would be based on square foot times the size.
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, in response to that question, staff used a similar land sale a little bit to the south on Willett Street, a couple hundred yards to the south of Willett Street, which is around $11 a square foot. So we've transferred that value to this parcel, which is where the value in their staff report is arrived at.
And for my clarity, we are simply offering it to the adjacent landowner. The adjacent landowner is not obligated to buy nor pay for it.
That's correct.
Okay. Councillor Veith.
So how I understand this is we're bound by the Municipal Act. This is the process that we have to go through.
Mr. Cotter.
Is that right?
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, that is certainly planning staff's understanding. If council wants to defer this item to obtain a legal opinion, you're welcome to do that. It's our understanding as planning staff that it's the Municipal Act that drives this particular land disposition requirement for fair market value.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Further questions at this time? So, to recap, in the draft plan of subdivision, We had a piece of land that was for us. Subsequent to building out the subdivision, there's a piece of land that we no longer need, and we wish to return it to the current landowner, which coincidentally happens to be the prior landowner, at fair market value. Fair? Which is what our regular process would be. Yes, Councillor Reith.
So that land, through you, Mayor Jaworski, that land can be developed. There's enough there to be developed, or is it like what's the developer going to do with it?
Mr. App.
It would be attached to another development parcel, so they would be able to access it. It might help them with a setback. It might help them with an open space requirement, or really those are the only purposes generally behind it when it's attached to the other parcel. I doubt very much they would get extra yield out of the development with such a small parcel.
Do we know how many square feet? Mr. Cotter.
Sorry, further to expand on Mr. Rapp's comments, the original plan of subdivision had townhouses that were backing onto Woolwich Street. This was part of the land dedication for the road widening of Woolwich. This parcel being conveyed back to Kristen's holding would allow them to allow for some townhouses to front onto Woolwich Street, so it adds to the depth of their parcel and allows them to yield around 4 units in this particular location.
Councilor Maven, please.
Thank you, Mayor Jaworski. But basically, the developer will decide whether they want to buy it or not. And if it's advantageous to buy it, they will. And if it's not advantageous, they won't. Is that fair?
Okay, Councillor Durrell.
So, but I just want to make sure I understand 100% here then. This was originally given to the city for free.
Through the Granada subdivision.
Yeah, we've had it for a while and now we don't need it. And so we're giving it back to the same people, but we're making them buy it back.
It coincidentally is the same people. If you want to take another shot at it, Mr. Rapp.
But I just want to, that's what I'm saying.
Certainly. I want to be clear that back with the original draft plan of subdivision, this would not have been the only parcel part of the widening. We would have taken a much larger parcel, and ultimately through the environmental assessment, the small little remnant of what we would have taken before is left over. And it is the original developer, yes, and they are seeking to ask and purchase that parcel, as indicated by Councillor Maven and the Mayor. There's no, they do not have to purchase this for the $11 per square foot, but that's the environmental, or the Municipal Act is leading us to full disclosure, fair market value, and the developer has the option to purchase it or not.
Okay, last call for questions before I call a vote. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor of the staff recommendation? Seeing none opposed, that carries. Thank you. Thank you. Next up, 10B, traffic report. So traffic measures update, Gatestone Boulevard near Laurelwood Park, and Eastbridge Boulevard, Eastbridge Park, prepared by Christine Keeler. I don't think there's no presentation, just here for questions. Questions for Chris? Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Burke. Oh, sorry, Councilor Burke, Councilor Durrell.
Okay, thank you, Christine, for this. I know we went out, we asked people what they wanted, and tell me what they wanted. Especially when it comes to Gatestone. I see the East Bridge, and that was relatively cut and dry, but in the Gatestone, Laurelwood area, what did people want when we presented them the options for traffic calming?
We hand-delivered 27 letters to homes on Gatestone Boulevard. We received 13 comments back. One resident wanted what we recommended, one side on-street parking. 2 residents wanted both sides no parking, and 10 residents were against.
Now, we also asked about the flexible signs, which basically say what?
The flexible signs show the normal playground sign as well as a hazard marker. They would be placed on the center line of the road.
Okay, and the response from residents there as well was that they did not want those flexible signs?
4 were in favor, 8 were against.
So do the flexible signs present any kind of a problem, an impediment, a barrier for drivers, or are they just in the middle, something for you to notice?
The flexible signs are something new that we're trying at the city. So they would go on the center line. They are as a information type sign to warn people that are driving along the street that there is a park in that area.
So essentially, they're a wake-up call to drivers and residents to say, look, there's somebody here who could be crossing.
They're a warning sign that instead of typically on the side of the road, is placed on the center line of the road.
So you say they're new. Have we used them anywhere before?
No, we have not.
I know that in this, we don't recommend putting those in because residents haven't asked for them. But I think it would be sensible to install those flexible signs in both Eastbridge and on Gatestone Boulevard as a reminder, because we all know that people are creatures of habit. They drive a certain way, and that little reminder there might be worthwhile. So I'm prepared to go along with the recommendations that you make, except that I'd like to add that I think we should try these flexible signs. I think it's time to try something different.
Next up, Councillor Doyle, then Councillor Veith.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understood, because I remember this council meeting very clearly, and there was a lot of people here from Ward 2 very concerned about child safety. And so what I'm reading in this report is that they want no traffic calming measures. I just want to make sure I'm clear about that they did not ask for any traffic calming measures. But Councillor Burke is saying, let's put them in anyway?
No. What I'm saying is if people don't want speed bumps and they don't want no parking, that's fine. They live on the street. They get, I can see that creates an issue for them.
Yeah.
But I think the idea of the flexible signs, warning of, children at play, children crossing, I think that's a sensible idea. But if people living right beside that area don't want no parking signs and don't want a speed bump, then I'm going to cave to them and say they know best. But I think having that sign in the middle is a good reminder for people who aren't familiar with the neighborhood.
Yep.
Councillor Veith.
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, thank you. Are you recommending one, if we were to do that, would it be one flexible sign on Gatestone or on Laurelwood, or 2 or 5 or what?
What we've planned for Eastbridge is one at either end of the park area, so we would do the same.
Okay. And I did speak with Councillor Freeman at the time. She said, the data on that, on Eastbridge, refresh my memory, Christine, I'm looking for it now. What was the data on Eastbridge residents, on what they thought of Eastbridge Boulevard?
On Eastbridge, we have 9 residents, and we had only 3 respondents.
Yeah.
All were in favor.
Okay. Yeah, and just from a Councillor Freeman standpoint, she just said, maybe it would be wise to wait a year to see, because of such low response on this, and she had not heard directly from anyone in Eastbridge, despite a lot of people go on Eastbridge Drive. However, she was fine with either way that we've proceeded, so that was good.
Yeah, and just as a point, Councillor Freeman was fine with the idea of the flexible signs being in, if that's the route that we wish to go, and maybe not go the other route with speed humps and that kind of thing, but with those flexible signs in both locations. And we have already committed, to looking at this afterwards and seeing where we are and continuing to work with the user groups and seeing if we can work something out. So it seems to me to be a sensible route to go.
Okay.
How we get there, procedurally, I have no idea.
And then to Chris, the flexible signs, although we were talking about putting in the traffic temporary speed humps just for a period of 2 months during the sports field use season, the seasonal flexible signs would be installed and removed when?
They would be installed when they arrive, and I don't know exactly when they'll be arriving. We have ordered them. But it is likely we would leave them there until end of September, early October.
Yeah, I just noticed it said seasonal as opposed to that. So seasonal represents really the 5 months of good weather that we seem to have around here.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. 5 weeks of good weather. Further questions? We do have one delegate here to speak. Okay, that's good. So we have one delegate registered, late this afternoon, so we'll have 5 minutes to speak. Aaron Hornestage. Welcome, Aaron.
Hello, Mayor and members of Council. Thank you again for allowing me to come here and represent the sports community. In the city of Waterloo, there is a tremendous growth in baseball and all sports, as I've mentioned in the past. And it's great that we're acknowledging that, and we're working together to provide great facilities for our children and for our adults to be able to thrive in sport. Not going to get into all the benefits of sport. I think,
which is good because we were talking about traffic calming tonight.
Yeah, but it all relates. It all ties together, because in order to move forward, I think we need to take a step back and make sure that we do the right things. There was previous council that made decisions 10 years ago that has led us up to this point here today. And in terms of the parking and the public engagement, I think it's absolutely limited in terms of the public engagement on the master plan for Waterloo Park from 2009. I think there were specific stakeholders who have been targeted through the years, and this is another example. If there's only 9 people in a community who are having a letter dropped in their mailbox, I don't think that that's really engaging the community. And in a world that we live in with the ability to communicate via social media and newspapers and other forms, we can do better. So in terms of addressing the safety issues, I think you guys have done a great job in terms of addressing the safety and the parking. And I don't personally live in that area, but it will be a challenge. Maybe you can speak, counselors who have children in sport, what it's like if you just drop them off or if you need a parking space. I'm not a parent, so I can't relate to that, but I think there needs to be, I think we can do better in terms of our facilities. We need these for the growth of baseball. Just last week on Saturday at Albert McCormick Arena, we had to use an indoor hockey arena for baseball. We had 78 kids. I'm the program director for this. And so these kids will be moving into T-ball next year. So it'll be great to have these T-ball fields up. I hope they can be up this year. If it takes things getting right and coming together with an entire plan to make sure that we're addressing all the baseball fields in Waterloo to address the growth of baseball, not only now, but also 20 years from now. Yeah. Again, Beckville Park is on the chopping block. I shouldn't say chopping block, but it's on the table to be removed in the future. Waterloo Park Fields 1 and 2 are on the table to be removed in the future.
It'd be good if you stuck to traffic calming measures on Eastbridge and Gatestone.
Well, I mean, in terms of transparency, I don't know. This is, again, it's an issue that I'm still learning about government and how government works, as you all did when you came into your role as councillors and mayor. I have a tremendous interest in politics, and this is something that perhaps in the future I might be representing the city. So my stance is that I believe in sports for all people, and I think the city of Waterloo has the opportunity to become a world leader in sports, to be one of the first cities, I don't know if any other city in the world has provided all of their citizens the ability for sport. United Nations has it in their in their mission that sport is for all, and I believe that we live in one of the richest parts of the world, and we can provide better health services and sports for all. So my recommendation is making the best decision that you guys feel is necessary for this on this topic today with parking and roads. But I also want to recommend a plan to provide all kids in Waterloo the opportunity for sport. I think that I'm standing here today to offer that, to be a part of that, and to make our city awesome, right? So a part of that is going to be to save Waterloo Park Fields 1 and 2. I know that the city has a plan from the past, but I think we should look forward to a master plan for 2020. That would be a recommendation to come back and look at it and present that and have proper public engagement. And at the end of the day, if that's the decision, if we have that proper public engagement with people, I think our hearts would be settled to know that we did things the right way and that people were a part of it. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak today.
Thanks. It'd be good if you kept on topic, though, when you're at council on traffic calming measures. Councillor Veith.
Through you, Mayor Jaworski. So, Aaron, if you were sitting up here, how would you vote on the traffic calming for Gatestone?
How would I vote? Well, luckily I don't have to vote today. So.
Yeah. Okay. Any further questions for the delegate? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have an item on the table, and I think what I'm hearing that staff are interested in these temporary signs and are kind of looking for a place to pilot them. I'm hearing interest from council of 2 new places that we could pilot them and try them out for this season whenever they arrive, and maybe we just do that we simply okay. So. Well, we don't have a motion on the tables yet.
Well, I'm happy to put the motion on the table, and if I can make it a friendly giant amendment.
Well, I think we just have to go to page 36 and let's see which one we're going to move forward with. And Christine, if you can help us with, I think we're looking for traffic calming measures 2B. Or not. 2B for Laurelwood and 2 for Gatestone and 2B for Eastbridge is what I'm hearing. So we're, notwithstanding the staff recommendations, we will not be going with staff recommendations Eastbridge 1 and Eastbridge 2A. No speed hump and no change in parking this year. Pardon me?
Just clarifying that Councillor Veith is the seconder.
Oh, second, yes. Yep. Thank you. Okay, so however that's wrapped up, we'll double check the minutes, but we're going to move forward with these seasonal signs mid-block, or not mid-block.
Yeah, as described in the report.
As described in the paper. Councillor Veith, did you want to speak to it?
So are we going to split this up into 2, or just put it on? Okay, that's fine.
One.
Further thoughts?
I just think, go ahead. You ask certain people a question, you can't, everybody's got their feelings one way or the other, but this seems like a sensible place to start, and if we do a good job of looking at it through the summertime and monitoring, and we come back and we find out what happens, maybe we find a new way to do things that is way more efficient and way more cost efficient. So on that note, let's head at it.
Okay, all those in favor? That's will be all of us. Thank you. Thank you, Christine. Oh, and next up, traffic and parking bylaw amendment, Longfellow Drive and Mohawk Drive. Do we have questions on that? And that is Councillor Henry's ward, which I haven't heard anything on. Moved by Councillor Whaley, second by Councillor Burke. lives nearby. Any discussions or questions? All those in favor? That's all of us. Thank you. Item D, Comprehensive Business Licensing Program Review. Brought to you by Shane Turner. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you, Mayor Jaworski and members of council. I'm just going to walk through a series of key points, and then Shamir and I and Kim are available for questions if need be. So by way of background, the City of Waterloo's had a long-standing and well-established business licensing program in the city. For many years it was administered through the Legislative Services Division and was comprised of a series of licensing bylaws that were specific to a variety of business sectors. The responsibility for administering the program was transferred to municipal enforcement in 2013, and at that time they initiated a review of the 10 bylaws with a view to consolidating them into one comprehensive license. This was done, and the current bylaw and program was implemented in January. Concerns identified, and as a result the decision was to not fully implement all aspects of the compliance program, and that delay in implementing some of the business aspects or aspects of the business program were set aside pending further review. So as a result, only 1 or 3 approved and budgeted positions were filled in the program. And you'll see in a couple slides coming up that both the revenue and expenses are well under forecast as a result of the limited compliance activity. Before I go on to some of the stats, just wanted to touch on the objectives and benefits of business licensing in communities. The key objectives of a business licensing program is consumer protection and creating a level playing field for businesses. There's several pieces to the consumer protection item. In particular, a licensing program proactively looks at compliance with a variety of requirements based on the nature of the business activity and the potential clientele. So some of the aspects that business licensing looks at in terms of ensuring comprehensive compliance is zoning compliance, fire safety, building code, public health, liability insurance, and in certain situations where appropriate, the potential for criminal record checks. Further objectives of a municipally based program are that licensing programs are flexible and are meant to reflect the nature of the community. Requirements of the program can be designed to reflect the concerns or potential risks associated with individual business sectors, and consistent compliance within the business sector helps to establish and maintain a level playing field for the businesses within that sector. So in 2014, as the program as the implementation phases were ramping up, a financial model was developed based on data from a number of sources that were available in 2014. So the top chart indicates that the forecast was that there would be a target of 2,710 businesses licensed by the end of 2017. The bottom chart represents the revenue and forecast, or revenue and expense forecast, and as an example, just using 2017, the expenses of approximately $358,000 and revenue of approximately $500,000 was targeted. And of course, in any situation with an enterprise, all surpluses in a program would be transferred to the reserve fund. So now I want to move on to the actuals and show that at the end of 2017, there were 857 businesses licensed in the city of Waterloo. That's approximately 31% of what the original forecast was, but this is all based on the limited implementation and the reduced staff resources put to it. In terms of revenue and expense actuals, again, just using one example, the year end of 2017, you'll see that revenue and expenses are approximately 31% of the original forecast. Revenue is slightly higher than the expenses, and at the end of 2017, there's approximately $66,000 in the reserve fund. So this is a list. I won't go through them one by one, but this is a list of some of the process improvements that have already been put in place over the last year or so. Most of it focuses on the application and the online application process, we found, I'll get to it in a moment, but through our public engagement process, we found that that online applications was the preferred method. And the feedback received from the public and licensees was that if there was any place to put resources, that we should focus on improving our online business portal. So again, most of the process improvements already are focused on the application and the online processes, and of course staff continue to do work in this area. In terms of public engagement, we've used Engage Waterloo to engage both licensees and the general public in terms of the benefits of licensing. So we asked questions of both of those groups. This slide indicates some of the key pieces of feedback. Again, the online application process is by far the preferred method, and we should continue to improve the online application process. Other comments received, particularly from those that are currently licensed, said that they believe it's important that others in their business sector are equally licensed. Further public engagement is indicated on this slide. Of note, businesses that are based out of Waterloo but doing business in Waterloo should hold a valid city license. Liability insurance was important to members of the public, and there is certainly the need for the city and city staff to increase our public awareness efforts around promoting the importance of business licensing to the community. And then we also, besides the larger Engage Waterloo surveys, we've also had a series of meetings with specific stakeholder groups and individuals. And as you can appreciate, with business licensing, there's a variety of business sectors, and their needs and concerns may differ. So we've undertaken to talk to particular groups on a one-on-one basis. And here's a list of some of the people that we've, or some of the business sectors that we've talked to. And certainly that's something that we're going to continue to go forward on in situations where somebody believes that their sector needs to provide input into the particular business category. So now I want to just indicate a few potential areas of continuous improvement that we plan to continue to investigate and evaluate. It is our recommendation that, or our intent, that one of the two officer positions be filled so that we can increase our rates of compliance to establish that level playing field. And of course the rate of compliance will help inform decision making about the financial models coming forward. We're going to be condensing some of the business license categories to make it more simplified, including the building renovator categories. Food truck regulation improvements as well will include condensing it and make it more easily understandable for the business community. There are some regulations that we're looking to remove, such as public halls, group homes, and such. We also have identified a couple of business sectors that are worthy of further investigation in terms of regulating. We're not there yet, but we'll certainly move forward with that only after careful consideration and consultation with those particular business sectors once we identify the potential implications to the community and the clientele. We also need to work with our fire services to identify possible solutions to address the backlog that exists relating to the review of fire safety plans, because that's certainly an important risk mitigation factor. Again, more areas of consideration and investigation will include increasing our public awareness initiatives. We are working closely with planning staff to review the implications of the comprehensive zoning bylaw, particularly as it relates to home-based businesses, and making sure that we don't put up unnecessary impediments to that, and ensure that we also meet the needs of the neighborhoods in terms of the business owner, but also the mitigating the impacts on neighborhoods. We also want to identify opportunities to support barriers for startup businesses. And at the very least, make sure that we mitigate any potential roadblocks to startup businesses and look at how we can support that sector. We've also begun some work in terms of aligning our business licensing requirements with regard to the city's neighborhood strategy, particularly around special events, temporary licenses, and that sort of stuff, to make sure that we can not do anything unnecessarily to impede the special events that are going to be coming forward as part of that neighborhood strategy. Then, of course, we have the continuing review of the licensing fees. At this particular point, we just quite simply don't have enough data to make an informed decision in terms of the fees. So we've held the line on the fees now for 3 years, and we'll continue to do so until such time as we have more fulsome data to be able to make that evaluation. As indicated, we're operating at about approximately 1/3 of the capacity, both from a revenues and expenses standpoint at this point. Sorry, excuse me. So in summary, we're going to continue to evaluate and implement the program improvements as outlined just a few moments ago. We're going to continue to engage our stakeholders and business sectors based on their specific needs. And we're going to look towards increased compliance efforts, which will help inform our future financial model. So with that, we're here to take questions, and I'll have a seat and with Shamir and field the questions.
Wonderful. I will have an idea, but first up is Councillor Burke.
And I look at this and I wonder, because, like you said, maybe reaching 31% of the level of businesses, and to me, whether you're an individual or a business, you invest your money because you think there's some value in it. So you buy your driver's license because there's a value to having a driver's license. So tell me, for a business, what's the value in buying the City of Waterloo business license? What do they get from it? Do they get a door sticker that says officially endorsed by the City of Waterloo? Do they get anything that they can say other than the fact that we bought our license and now no one's going to come after us?
To you, Mayor Jaworski, there's a couple of pieces to that answer. And it's not just about the value of a business license. You made a reference to a driver's license. There's a lot to the road safety and driving enforcement and that sort of stuff. So the fees related to something like a driver's license and stickers for your car go to a larger program. Similarly with business licensing, there is a need to ensure compliance with regulations that promote public safety and consumer protection, but also to establish that level playing field. So those fees are used to help the community ensure that we're making all of our putting forward all efforts possible to make sure that the community isn't impacted, or particular clientele are not impacted. So we look at things like public health, fire safety, building code compliance, zoning compliance. The other piece, though, is it also establishes a mechanism whereby a business that is licensed has the ability to come to us and help us address concerns within their business sector to make sure that everybody else is playing by the same rules.
But isn't the key to getting anybody to buy your product a belief that that product has value? And I'm not trying to be difficult here, but not that I want to make sure the other guy pays his license fee, but when they hand over their money to the City of Waterloo, they feel they're getting something worthwhile. And it just suggests to me that if we're not reaching those levels that we thought we were, maybe that value isn't there. Like, is it there for the average business owner?
Through Mayor Jaworski, I believe it is, but again, it's not. My opinion is that it's not as simple as just looking at it as a product and a value to the business owner. It's a value and a mechanism to ensure consumer protection and public safety. So there is that piece, and again, I'll use the driver's license scenario again. Somebody that's never had a speeding ticket, never had an accident, still has to pay the same sort of fees as other people that have had multiple tickets and accidents, because that program is there to ensure public safety. So it's not as simple as just, in my mind, and respectfully, it's not as simple as saying that a business license is purely just a value for the business owner. There's value to the community as well. So that's the first piece. The other piece around the 30%, what we're saying is we're at the 30% mark because of the decision to hold back on fully implementing the program. So there are some staff positions that we held off on based on the review. So the 30% is as a result of a conscious decision to hold back certain aspects of the program.
And actually, to be fair, I think in some ways we're on a very similar page in that in that you talk about communication and communicating the value of that license, and that maybe we haven't, as an organization, done a very good job in communicating exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, we've had, through Mayor Jaworski, some members of council might recall some of the discussions we had in December around another licensing program here in the city, the rental licensing program, and we identified at that time that the city can, we would do well to increase our efforts in terms of communicating the importance of licensing throughout the city, both to the users as well as the clientele that use those businesses.
Yeah, I think one thing is the fire safety plan is certainly you as a business could come to us with your fire safety plan, have it adjusted and approved by professionals here. So that's certainly, for people who care about their clients would be or customers, that would be a good thing to have. Next up on my list, Councillor Doyle, Councillor Maven.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Jaworski, thank you for this report. I just wanted to make sure I was clear on something because I can't find it now, but it's not 30% of businesses, it was 30% of the target we wanted to hit, right?
And through you, Mayor Jaworski, that's correct, yes.
Yeah, so
30% of the target.
Fraction of the businesses that are in our city. Thank you. And so as I was going through this again, I was looking at the things that we're saying that are positive about the business license. And it strikes me that much of this is done in other ways. Because I remember when we first passed this, one of the issues I had, because I had a lot of businesses which were really upset about this, and I think we ended up slowing down a little bit on this, if I can remember completely correctly. There's a bit of it in our background. But to their point, much of this is already done through their higher level organizations. So, for example, the HVAC community there's associations that they're getting all of this, the licensing through. Is that correct?
Through Mayor Jaworski, what we've done is we've taken a look at those types of business sectors that are regulated through other areas, and looking at pulling back on any of those sectors that are already regulated, where there are sanctions in place to to deal with non-compliance in that particular sector. So, for example, there's many types of businesses that we don't license, like electrical contractors, for example, because there is a specific provincial legislation and an inspection unit that deals with compliance in that area. But many of the areas that we're talking about, they may have an association, but there's no regulations or sanctions available in terms of non-compliance. So one of the focuses of business licensing beyond that is if there's a variety of regulations that might apply to businesses, what business licensing does is pulls it all together and ensures that there's compliance with all of those steps. Sort of, I don't want to use the term one-stop shopping, but we found that through a series of inspections and investigations, we can find that a business may operate, and it may be a mobile business, it could be a bricks and mortar type business that is operating with part of what they're required, but not everything. So, for example, we found businesses that didn't have zoning compliance or fire safety compliance. So the business licensing piece brings it front and center and ensures that all the requirements specific to mitigating risks in that sector are in place. So, speaking as the small business owner that works with a lot of small business owners, this is, to me, a lot of the things that you're bringing up can be very harmful to the small business economy. And, from what I'm hearing, it's like that, the one or two that there might be issues with, but overall 90% of our, probably maybe more, I don't know, are all working in the right zoning, and when they're coming to us for fire code, they're getting that through building permits. Their zoning is checked in those ways too, right? And you assume when they lease a space that's all in the up and up. So I'm just wondering, I think I really struggled with this many years ago, and when it came back, I went through some of my old notes and started remembering all the issues that we had here, and I guess what I'm struggling with is, the community doesn't seem to be
interested in this at all, the business community. It seems like most of this stuff is already being managed by other organizations. So I'm not sure if I think it's a good idea. I don't think I've got enough information to say I want to put more money into this and hire more staff to put towards this. I don't think I didn't get a strong enough point out of your report. So maybe I missed it, but do you think that there's something I missed that to say why we should be doing this, putting more money into it?
No, that's okay. Through you, Mayor Jaworski. We believe we laid out in the report, first of all, front and center, the benefits of a licensing program in terms of pulling all those things together. And I see your point, Councillor Durrell, with regard to approvals that are required in other areas, but what we can say is that there's no guarantee that all of those approvals will be put in place at any given time, because there may be 3 or 4 or 5 different regulatory bodies or inspections that are required. So it is, again, pulling together that that one-stop shopping in terms of ensuring those regulations are in place. The point around adding a staff member, which is already approved and budgeted for, was to ensure that we can increase our rates of compliance so that we can move on that 30% to establish more of a level playing field, but also proactively look at those sectors of businesses that that may not be compliant and need some form of regulation. And I think it's also important to understand that there are a variety of different businesses that are captured by this program, and so the bricks and mortar type of business sector, that's where we look at things like the fire safety and public health for restaurants and that sort of stuff. But there's a variety of types of businesses that we regulate that are more difficult to keep track of. Just anecdotally, I can provide you a couple of examples of homeowners that would contact us and say that they've had a building renovator come in, and most times building renovators ask for money up front and then they never do the work. So there are certain elements of business sectors that create challenges. That's not to suggest that that's the majority within a sector, but just again using the driving license scenario again. Not everybody that has a license is a problem, but they all, through fees and regulations, share in trying to deal with the issues and come up with the solutions that way. So we're not trying to paint everybody with a broad brush, but it is a mechanism where everybody contributes to regulating the risks that are associated with the business sector.
Can I just ask one follow-up question then? But when you mention restaurants and public health, doesn't the region take care of all of that?
The region does the inspections, but we complement it by giving them a mechanism to, if we find restaurants, we ensure that the public safety or the public health certificates are in place. If they find a problem, then they'll come to us and help us with avenues to address getting compliance, or in extreme cases, closing down the business. Yes, the region does the public health inspections, just like fire safety or fire services would inspect the fire safety plants. It's not all done within our area. We have partnerships with the other regulators.
Okay, and I think what we heard there, so like anything budget-wise, we're not being asked to give more money today. That was something that they're working within their budget. Councillor Maven, then Councillor Veith.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Jaworski. I think I'm more along the lines of Councillor Durrell on this. That surprises me, Councillor Durrell. It doesn't happen that often. Professional and technical services, the sector is not mentioned at all. And I recall back in 2014, 15, whenever it was, there was somebody from Mary Street came in, a University of Waterloo student, who had a roommate, and they had 2 or 3 or 4 businesses, I can't remember, but the only difference in their businesses was that where they signed on to the computer. And so he wanted to know whether or not would he have to pay 3 or 4 business licenses, because he didn't have any traffic. Everything he wanted to do was over the internet. So he didn't have any traffic problems. He didn't have any customers coming in, so it wasn't a public health issue. I don't know whether those have been resolved. I don't know why there's no professional sector or any tech sector, because you still have the sort of the iconic garage startup in your mind as far as in the tech field as something that still happens, and maybe it doesn't. But is there a reason why that sector isn't in here, or is it in here and I don't know it?
It's really the area that we wouldn't like. We need to license, right? Right. Sorry, through Mayor Jaworski, that area, if I'm understanding the question or the sectors that you're talking about, if it's a professional sector like real estate agents, lawyers, doctors, that sort of stuff, even registered massage therapists and dentist office, we don't regulate that because they have a regulatory body that helps to address issues of non-compliance. And I think that's the key to understand, is if there is a body that can help address areas of non-compliance versus just associations, we don't capture them in the business licensing bylaw. Also, if you've got somebody that's working from home, say a home-based business or whatever, in many of those areas we would not regulate them because there's really no impacts on the neighborhood and the community. But if there are situations where a home-based business a home-based business might have the potential to impact the community, that's where we would look at some forms of regulations around signage, around ensuring that they have zone compliance, liability insurance for people coming onto their private property and such. So I'm struggling to understand if I'm addressing your question, but my sense is a lot of what you're talking about in terms of that professional and technical sector, we wouldn't capture. We really are focusing on those areas where there may be some consumer protection and public safety risks.
Okay, this is like I had a conversation with them. It was focused more on the home-based businesses and the ones that don't have any visitors, don't have any signage, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and I think you've answered my question. It's not entirely subjective. You've actually just excluded it for rational grounds. Okay.
Yeah, specifically around the regulatory bodies.
Okay, so, and as far as who complains? Who are the people who typically complain? And I noticed, again in here, you have complaints relating to a sector or a business license. I don't even know of anybody who's got a business license, so I don't know how I complain about them.
There's a variety of reasons why we might get a complaint. It could be a customer. It could be in a neighborhood. We've recently, this past summer, dealt with situations in neighborhoods where people were running a business out of their garage and such. So, we've had examples of that where there's an impact on the neighborhood. There could be an impact on the client. I mentioned, and again, I'm not saying that the industries are fraught with these challenges, but we've responded to situations where we've got building renovators that have no home-based or no business, but they just they operate out of a pickup truck. And we've had situations where we've had to track down people that were operating without a business because they've essentially walked away with not providing full service. So there's a variety of ways. We've had from time to time, depending on the business sector, comments from other businesses within that same sector saying that they should be playing by the same rules as I am. So there's a variety. I can't say what one is more predominant than others.
Thank you.
Next up, Councillor Reith, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Jaworski. I was just looking at page 61 where you've got the businesses requiring a license annual renewal date. So if a business, any one of those goes and gets their license for whatever, I don't know how much it costs, but so they renew it, is it the same fee as what they paid to get their original license, or is it a lower price, or is there no fee, or is there, what's the checkbox thing for renewing?
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, The fee is definitely lower based on the fact that there's already been some upfront work, but there's still other checks and other types of regulations that have to be complied with year over year. So the fee is significantly lower, but in terms of a percentage, I can't say that they're all 30 or 40% lower, but they're certainly lower in every category.
Councillor Whaley.
I think it was in November when we had the rental licensing agreements up for, in council, and council agreed, we got to do some enforcement on this. We don't have all these people who are renting out their houses and their basements and whatever. They're not compliant. We want to go after these people because thousands have, and we should have more compliance. And I'm so surprised tonight to hear some members of council say we have 851 businesses who are happy to pay. They see value in it. We have our licensing team here saying that we need to have these licenses for the reasons of safety, for the reasons of compliance, and other things mentioned. But this council doesn't seem to want to follow through on that. What happens to, so if tonight we say we want to fund this anymore, what happens to those 851 businesses who do see value in having a license?
Through Mayor Jaworski, subject to council direction, if that type of a direction was given to staff, that to not renew those licenses and not pursue new licenses, the licenses that have been issued would just expire at the appropriate time with no further action taken.
Any other mid-sized city, sophisticated city like ours that doesn't have a business licensing program?
Through Mayor Jaworski, I can tell you that the vast majority, I can't give you a specific number, but I feel very confident in telling you that the vast majority of large urban centers or even mid-sized urban sectors in Ontario have a business licensing program. It is, typically speaking, just a general course of business.
As it should be.
All the municipalities, from large municipalities from Guelph to London, including Waterloo Region, all have licensing bylaws with various degrees of enforcement around business sectors. So the beauty of, or the benefit of business licensing is you can tailor it to needs of your particular community.
And finally, if we decided to turn our back on business licensing in this town, would you see more of these fly-by-night businesses targeting Waterloo? We have occasions where that happens now. Would you see, in this unlicensed regime, would you expect more of these unscrupulous businesses coming to town?
To you, Mayor Jaworski, it is possible. I mean, I couldn't put a number on it, but I do know that, and I can say with confidence that there are at least a couple of situations where people chose not to operate in Waterloo because of issues that they created, and we were able to take action against them.
Thank you. And I think, maybe Councilor Maven has something here, but I think really what we're looking at today is looking at page 12 of the report, page 59 of the council package, to look at the 13-ish program improvements that staff are suggesting to the program for continuous improvement purposes moving forward. And the one I would like to make a suggestion on, or ask a question. The business licensing program runs as an enterprise, which means it breaks even.
That's
what I'm wondering is, though, some of the things like the city neighborhood strategy, your second last point here, where you want to make sure that we're easy to do business with, particularly for temporary special event licenses as an example. And these are really not-for-profits or individual users, citizens, unsophisticated. Can we essentially have a low fee on the ones that are for our not-for-profits, special events, because it's in our city's interest to have more special events in our city, and to have a price barrier for, say, citizens or small not-for-profit. Can you take that into account as you make these improvements to the program?
Yes, absolutely, Mayor Jaworski, and you'll see that when the neighborhood strategy report comes forward, I believe in the middle of May, there's a couple of specific recommendations in the action plan that talk about removing barriers to special events and business licensing is a part of it. So what we're talking about in this report is aligning with what's going to be coming forward in terms of the neighborhood strategy, in terms of making sure that there are some measures in place, to mitigate risks, but not make it such an onerous thing that that we're going to be standing in the way. So really, if I could use the words of our Commissioner, Mark Dykstra, in terms of these types of special events is, let's not say no, let's explore.
Yeah, and I think certainly from a price perspective, this council, I think, would be very fond of having economical pricing for our neighborhood association, neighborhood strategy.
I can assure you that's on the table.
Yes, we are. Well, as instructing staff on page 12 of the report, page 59, second last item is to review the alignment of these with the context of neighborhood strategy. So yes, we are voting on that.
Clarification?
I had Councillor Maven first. Councillor Maven, did you? Okay, Councillor Dorr.
Yeah, I just want to clarify what you just said, because what I heard our Director of Bylaws say was that you'll be coming forward with the neighborhood strategy, and one of the things you were talking about is not having a business license in the neighborhood strategy. You don't have to apply for a business license in the neighborhood strategy?
Through Mayor Jaworski, sorry, maybe I apologize if I wasn't clear. What I was saying was that there's another report around the neighborhood strategy that's coming in the middle of May that also speaks to this. Yes. So that there is a concentrated effort through the neighborhood strategy as well as our division to make sure that we put some low fees and temporary licensing in place, or perhaps in some cases look for exemptions for specific types of events. So the report itself that's coming forward in May, and I apologize for perhaps taking us down a road that we didn't need to, but the report that's coming in May is going to talk about how those action items are aligning with what we're talking about here, not specific recommendations.
Another example would be like the drain layer contractors are essentially covered by something we've discovered, so they probably don't need to be part of it anymore, correct?
That's correct. And if I could, Mayor Jaworski, just to clarify, the intent and the focus of the report was not to specifically say that we were asking for council's recommendation on all the program improvements listed on page 12, because some of those still need further evaluation and public consultation. What we're saying is we're asking council to endorse our plan to move forward with continued investigation and compliance efforts.
Wonderful. I have a mover, but I think Councilor Maven has a question.
Yes, please. Just want to follow up because I thought we were discussing the expansion of the program, not necessarily termination of the program. Just want to make sure and clear on that. And I'm looking at the plan that in 2015, so on, the expectation was by 2017 there would be 2,700 units or businesses. And now we find there's 857. Now I know that you didn't, Shane, you didn't create that. That was created by your predecessor at the time. But bottom line is, what happens is 857 happens to be the number. Are we going to continue to send things out and try to find more businesses, or what are we doing?
Through Mayor Jaworski, we believe that the number, that 857, is quite a bit lower than what the market is out there. Again, the data at the time in 2014 informed that particular model, 2,700, I believe it was. So we believe that that number is quite low, and what that speaks to is ensuring that there is a level playing field across those sectors, because we have licensing in virtually all the business sectors that are captured by the bylaw, but only a fraction of what there could be, and so that's where we need to look at compliance efforts to establish that level playing field.
Okay, and would there be a time for sort of a reevaluation of those assumptions to see whether or not they still hold true?
Through Mayor Jaworski, yes. What that evaluation really is going to be done as part of a fee review that every enterprise does during the normal budget cycle. So it's our intent, just like we have done with the rental licensing program, is to incorporate those fee reviews and those, that market analysis as part of the normal budget cycle. So I can tell you ahead of time, we don't anticipate any adjustments for 2019, but as part of the 3-year budget cycle in 2020 to 2022, we're currently doing some evaluation around the market analysis, but also the time involved and the efforts involved in terms of enforcement and administration. So the mechanism to report back on those financial models will be blended into the normal business that comes forward during the normal budget cycles.
What would happen if council didn't approve this tonight? What would be the status quo?
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, specifically to the recommendation on, because there's really 2 parts to that, Councillor Maven. The first part is if the recommendation was not approved as written in the report, then what we would be looking at is status quo. But then that begs the next question is, what do we do next? So the short answer is yes, it would be, we revert back to what we're doing now in terms of status quo, but it is our belief that that those efforts would not be reasonable in terms of serving our community. So we'd have to come back to council with a further discussion about what we do going forward.
Okay, thanks, Shane.
Yeah, and I think it's important to look at the all the improvements that they plan on, that staff plan on making, that that benefit the community based on the input they received from the community. And as mentioned, it's common program throughout many communities, and we long ago approved the budget. I know Councillor Whaley was moving it. Councillor Veith is seconding it. So discussion on the improvements or more suggestions. Councillor Burke.
Might surprise you. I'll actually vote for this, and there's reasons for that. But I think there is a point. I'm a small business owner in Waterloo as well, and I see value in having a license. But I also worry that the business license goes the way of the dog license, where only a very small number of people buy it because they see there's a value in having their dog license. I just want to ensure that compliance is one thing, and maybe I'm misreading that word, but the willingness of people to buy it because they see a value in it, as my old Irish mother said, you catch a lot more with sweetness, right, than anything else. And I think people need to understand and believe that there's a value in the license that they're buying. Not that they're concerned because somebody's going to tell them they're breaking the bylaw and they need to have a license, but they see a real value in it. And I think that's the only way we're ever going to have success on this, or on dog licenses, or any other license that we buy. And let's go back one time too many to the driving license analogy. People have them because they believe there's a value in them. Even if they believe that value is, if a policeman pulls me over, it's probably good to have a valid license. It's a really valuable thing. But it gives them some sense of something. And I just think that's what business owners need to have. They want to know that whatever that amount of money they're putting out, that's got some value to them. So it's not a criticism of what's been going on, Shane, or anything else. It's just that I look at it, and in a day and age where there's a small amount of cynicism out there, I don't want to see this licensing program, which can be very valuable, go the same way of the dog license program, where people just buy it and kind of go, well, you know, I do because I do it every year. I don't see any great value in it. And we haven't fixed that one yet. And I'd like to see this get to the point where people go, yeah, I want to buy a City of Waterloo business license because I know that means that we're doing the right thing. And I think when we get to that point, we're golden. So I'll support it, but I'm still going to have my 2 cents, maybe even 4.
Well, for your 2 cents, I think what you've actually asked is if staff can add another program improvement, that is the value continue to work on the value proposition of the program that we see here that was outlined on page 4 of the report as additional things. That's what you've sort of said.
I just think we just really need to understand that people buy things because they put a value on them. Doesn't matter what it is. Whether it's a dog license, a hairstyle, or a politician. They buy into it because they think there's a value in it.
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, just on that point, just to give council a level of assurance, that was a comment that was received in the public engagement and is also embedded in the series of program improvements around public awareness initiatives that are on page 12.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So it's already there, so point well taken. Seeing no further comments, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? 2. That carries. Thank you. Now, I thank you, Shamir, for that report, and Kim, for your support. Item E, community scope, greenhouse gas emission targets for emission reductions, long-term target setting. A report prepared by Anna Marie Cipriani. Welcome, Anna Marie.
Good evening again, Mayor Jaworski and members of council. So you have a report before you in your council packet that I have prepared with regards to work that the Climate Action Waterloo Region Collaborative has been doing. And so we as the City of Waterloo are partnered with our local municipal counterparts as well as Reap Green Solutions and Sustainable Waterloo Region to move action forward with regards to reducing our community scope greenhouse gas emissions. So in light of the report that you have, I'd like to introduce the Executive Director of Reap Green Solutions, Mary Jane Patterson, and the Executive Director of Sustainable Waterloo Region, Tova Davidson, who will speak to and provide context for the report that you have before you. There are also several other delegations.
Yes, that's right. And just for my benefit, Anna Marie, if anybody has questions for Anna Marie as yet, the staff report and recommendation is consistent with what the community is asking for?
Yes. Yeah, and it's consistent across the municipalities and region as well.
Correct. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that this is consistent and something we've discussed before. So good.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Welcome, Tova. Mary Jane.
Okay. Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Tova Davidson. I am the Executive Director at Sustainable Waterloo Region, and I'm joined here with my friend and cohort and partner in crime, Mary Jane Patterson from Reap Green Solutions. We are here representing the collaborative partners of Climate Action Waterloo Region, which is Reap and Sustainable Waterloo Region, as well as the region and the three cities of Cambridge, Kitchener, and Waterloo. And together we've been working through the FCM Partners for Climate Protection process and have reached milestone 5 with our original target and are now coming to you with the next step.
So you know that we have currently a short-term target of 6% below 2010 levels by 2020, and Tova spoke to that in her earlier presentation. This year, we've been looking ahead beyond that to a longer-term target, and we've been consulting with the community and other stakeholders. We've been asking them what they see for this community 30 years from now. What is their vision for what our community is like, and what are the greenhouse gas emission reductions they think we need to do to achieve that vision? And what emerged from that consultation is what we are bringing before you tonight. We are recommending an emission reduction target of 80% below 2010 levels by 2050 for Waterloo Region.
So in that community consultation that Mary Jane spoke about, we talked to 1,830 people across the region, and just to be completely transparent, we didn't just talk to the greenies, because that would be cheating. So we went to the mall, and we went to hockey games, and we went to the libraries, and all those sorts of things across the entire region, including the townships. And what we saw was that 85% of the total people who were surveyed said they wanted a 50% target or more. And of that 85%, 53% of them chose a target of 70% or more. And you can see the responses right there on the graph. And that's a picture of some of our volunteers going out into the community to ask them what they thought.
An 80% target aligns with the science and with other levels, other government levels, and the targets they are choosing. In the Paris Agreement, a goal was set of keeping the temperature increase to below 2% and ideally to below 1.5 degrees, sorry, not percent, degrees of warming, centigrade. At the provincial level, there's a target in the province of Ontario of reducing 80% by 2050, and the Canadian government looks set to have about the same target in the Pan-Canadian framework. And what we're already seeing now is that grant applications that come across our desks from the province and from the federal government are prioritizing municipalities that apply with an ambitious target. And I've seen 80% mentioned in those.
So there are other communities that have already done this, that have set a target to 2050. And of all of those that are similar to Waterloo Region, all of them have chosen 80% by 2050. So there is alignment happening across the province that we think is really important for us to be working in partnership with as well.
We believe that achieving this target will be a combination, not only of our own local action, but also of provincial and federal policies and of market trends. So if you think about things like the doubling of electric vehicles in our community in 1 year, of auto manufacturers turning more and more to electric and hydrogen vehicles and away from combustion engines, of building codes being increased by about 2030 in the province of Ontario and other jurisdictions, we think buildings will be net zero. Other things, what did I have as an example? Carbon pricing in a number of jurisdictions will help bring down the cost of renewables, and then the reduced cost of storage mechanisms like batteries will help us store those renewables and use them at other times of the day and night. So all of those things will combine to help move this target forward, and then as municipalities, we want to be looking at that future vision every time we make decisions that move towards that in bylaws, transportation, building codes, for example. The Community Energy Investment Strategy also aligns very directly with this. In making us more energy resilient as a community, it also reduces greenhouse gas emissions.
We also see that showing leadership in emissions is crucial for growing that global market share. I spoke earlier about the clean tech cluster development that we're working on in Evolve One, and this kind of leadership from the municipality and the community as a whole positions us well to say that this is the place for clean tech companies to come and develop. This industry is tripling to $3 billion by 2020 is the projection, and that renewables actually now attract more investment worldwide than the fossil fuel industry. This is a growing sector, and as Canada's innovation capital, we actually could prosper from this sector, and that's an important opportunity economically to be considering, as well as environmentally.
The benefits from reducing greenhouse gas emissions go well beyond tackling climate change. And really these are things we want to be doing anyway. They make our community more attractive, more progressive, and healthier. If we look at things like reducing the emissions from transportation, that improves air quality. The zoning decisions, the transportation decisions, these help make our communities more walkable and more livable. And in turn, this helps to attract workers and businesses to want to be here in this community.
So one of the questions we've heard a few times is, why is 2010 our baseline year? Some communities have used a 1990 baseline, and so why have we chosen that one for Waterloo Region? Well, the simple and easy answer is that's where the data is. We don't have reliable data from 1990. However, if you look at the provincial data on greenhouse gas emissions from 1990 and 2010, you will see that they are almost identical. So if we extrapolate that into the region, we are not putting ourselves at a disadvantage by using 2010. It goes to follow that it would probably be very similar. The other point to make here is that this is an absolute target. And when I talk about the Regional Sustainability Initiative, you'll know that that means that despite growth in the community, we would be looking for the same reduction, 80%. And the thing we saw in the data from our last re-inventory from 2015 is that this region has actually decoupled economic and population growth with its greenhouse gas emissions. So we came down by 5.2% from 2010 to 2015, but the population grew and the economy grew at the same time. So that absolute target has been shown to be possible through that decoupling.
We're proposing that we set this target first, and then we make the plan to reach that target. So we're using a backcasting approach. We begin with the end in mind, and then we work steadily towards that, breaking it up into 10-year plans along the way. So what comes next? We are asking first for your approval. We will be looking for the approval of the 3 cities and the region. We've been to the City of Kitchener on April 9th, and it was approved there. Cambridge will be coming up on May 1st, and the region on May 29th. We've been to regional township councils, and they've all heard about the long-term target, and their mayors will be part of the regional council vote. And then we begin to set our plan, a high-level plan looking at 2050. A more detailed plan we'll start to design for the first 10 years. And that will involve all of us, the community, municipalities, and municipal staff. And this gives me an opportunity to say a very big thank you to the municipal staff who have been working with us from the region and from the cities. Here to Anna Marie Cipriani from the City of Waterloo. They have all given their expertise and their insights to help bring us to this moment, and we want to say thank you to them. We also want to say a big shout out and thank you to our plan manager, Kate Daly, whose baby target got in the way of this target and who is taking care of that, keeping safe. And a thank you also to Hannah Dubber, who stepped in as Kate went off on baby leave and has helped steer the ship with us since then. So it is a historic moment, and we turn this over to you, Waterloo City Councillors. We ask for your support for this target of 80% reduction over 2010 levels by 2050. Thank you.
Thank you. I see questions here from Councillor Whaley.
Well, thanks to all 3 of you for your remarkable leadership. It's been a joy to have you in our community. A few years ago, they shut down the coal-fired plants in Ontario, and ever since that day, we've never had one smog day in Waterloo. They used to be a common occurrence, and that one paradigm shift made such a difference. When you, in your role, looking forward, can you see the next paradigm shift, that next big thing that's going to result in optimism and hope for the future?
Can I take a first crack? Go. One of the things that I see just burgeoning is the electric vehicle technology adoption. 49% of the carbon footprint of Waterloo Region now comes from transportation. But when we run events that look at electric vehicles through Charge WR, we see incredible interest. In fact, the largest Drive Electric Week event in Canada was here this year. September 16th was held at the City of Kitchener because it's sort of in the middle, and the idea was to get people in cars. Over 400 people came to that event. The most recent Moving WR event had between 600 and 800 people come out to look at sustainable transportation. So when you put together 49% of our footprint with incredible community interest and demand, the biggest problem with electric vehicles, people can't get them. The demand is so high. So I think that's going to be a huge game changer.
I'll add that I really hope the ION will be a paradigm shift for us also, and we all have a role to play in making that happen.
Thank you. Councillor Maven's up next.
Through you, Chair Jaworski, going back to that chart where it showed the 49% for transportation, it showed that the 44% 5 years ago it's actually grown, even though there's emission controls, even though there's electrical vehicles, as you said before, has grown. What's causing that?
What we saw was that in some of the cities that the rate of vehicle ownership outstripped the rate of population growth. So we are adding twice the rate of cars to the number of people. So people who used to live without vehicles are now buying vehicles.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And for my benefit, since we have lots of delegations here, are you happy with the staff recommendation?
Yes.
Correct? Okay. And I think generally what I've felt amongst council is that we are too, but for some reason people in the community have the misperception that we're not that fond of the environmental progress. So I just thought I'd maybe signal that to our delegations, as we have quite a few.
I actually don't think it's that they think you aren't supportive. I think that they are so excited they want to be heard.
Wonderful. That's exactly what we want to hear. So seeing no further questions. Thank you. Now, as I mentioned, we do have 5 delegations with 10 minutes, 1 with 5 minutes. That's 55 minutes. And question and answer. So I'd ask for people to, I'll call the first one up, but as subsequent ones get called up, if you could focus on new information, that would be the best. First up is Devin Fernandez. And you'll have up to 10 minutes, Devin. Please
sure,
go ahead.
yeah, I'll try and be as brief as possible. I'm sure everyone kind of wants to head home as soon as possible. But briefly, I'm currently doing my master's at Laurier, and I want to kind of represent why I thought this target would be a really smart decision for students as they are kind of a considerable population in Waterloo, for job seekers and for local businesses. So as a student who is considering masters in different cities across Canada, one of the things that really kind of piqued my interest was when my now current advisor mentioned that Sustainable Waterloo Region was kind of had these pioneering efforts around sustainability, and also that Evolve One was kind of just getting started at the time. So spring forward, about 2 years later, my thesis is now on Evolve One, and it's really looking at whether job seekers are attracted to working in green buildings. And so the evidence and data that I'm really capturing is showing that people are really interested in green buildings, and it can really be a pinnacle to which we can attract job seekers and key talent and really retain them in a city that is kind of renowned for environmentalism, but we can just push it over the edge. Another thing is I'm one of the co-founders of the Kitchener-Waterloo Library of Things, which is a space where you can borrow infrequently used items. And I really think that through all the partnerships that I've developed with for-profit organizations, charitable organizations, universities, that organizations are really excited about innovative ideas and projects that capitalize on strengthening the environment in Waterloo. I've yet to meet one person who isn't excited about ways that we can improve our environment here, and I think this is a real opportunity for council, for the city of Waterloo to show leadership that it has in the past and continue to do so. So I think that it would not only be a smart decision for the city of Waterloo, but for its residents to live in a city where they can live, work, learn, and play in a more sustainable place. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you, Devin. And certainly when you get done, when you publish your thesis, let us know. Be interesting to hear.
It'll be a couple months, so no.
We should do what you need to do. Questions for Devin? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is Tanya D'Amato, Director of Greenhouse.
All right. Good
Welcome.
evening, Mayor and Councillors. I'll be very, very brief because I have puppies at home. They're waiting to pee. So I'm here representing the social innovation and social entrepreneurship community at the University of Waterloo. Every year we mentor and support hundreds of young people that are wanting to start change initiatives. Setting a target such as this, a long-term target of 80% reduction, really sets the bar in terms of, okay, now how do we go about doing this? So I would just like to echo my support along with the other delegates tonight that setting a target such as this is going to encourage innovation and is especially going to empower our young people to think big. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and I should have thanked all the delegates for bearing with us as the first 2.5 hours that we had to get through, and then staying despite family matters with the puppies. So thank you very much for that. 8 questions for Tanya. Seeing none. Next up, David Truman. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors, for allowing me to speak. So this is my daughter, Jessie. She's pursuing her master's in ecology at McGill University. Proud papa. So she's very well informed on the science of climate change. Unfortunately, that's led her to a rather pessimistic outlook, knowing the science. She's decided that she's not going to bring any children into this world. I find that incredibly sad, and we need to do better for our youth. And I hope not only in adopting this change, but taking bold action, as you're called upon to do in the future, that we can give our youth a more optimistic outlook. Obviously we have a global problem, but we have to take our local action, take our responsibility, and become part of this global movement to do something about climate change. I've made my personal commitment. I ride my bike everywhere. I'm a member of Climate Action WR, founding member of Cycle WR, which you'll be hearing more from. And I eat a plant-based diet to avoid the greenhouse gas emissions from animal agriculture. So what can the city do? Obviously, I'm asking you to adopt the recommendation for an 80% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. But it's going to take much more than just adopting that recommendation. It's going to require bold action and leadership from the city to do everything possible in this community. And you know, I'm not suggesting that all the examples I have here are things that you absolutely will have to do, but they are examples of potential actions. Things like eliminating parking minimums in the development standards, phasing out parking subsidies to stop making driving you know, the best option to get places, modifying zoning and development requirements to encourage densification. I know the council has done some work in that area already, and to encourage non-carbon transportation. A bold step such as Vancouver has taken of prioritizing walking and cycling and transit over car transport. It's really very simple. It doesn't mean cars don't get appropriate attention in regulation and so on, but the priority goes to pedestrians first, then cyclists, then transit users. And this means safe, prioritized trail crossings so that we can address the 60% of the population that would be interested in more cycling and walking, but they don't feel safe in doing so today. Segregated cycle paths. Fortunately, we have a pilot happening, hopefully this year. Winter maintenance of all these facilities so that people can do the modal shift and have confidence that they're not going to be held back on in inclement weather, such as last week. I was dodging icebergs in the bike lanes today, you know, 1 week later, because no one bothered to push the icebergs back out of the lanes. And a big one, I know it's not strictly city responsibility, but we have to do something about compost collection from multi-unit apartment dwellings. Huge source of greenhouse gases from the methane. So, you know, I set these out as examples because I think this decision is more than just setting a target. It's getting on board with the actions that are going to happen in the coming years. So, I'm confident that you will adopt this target, but thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, David, for all the personal items, and I think by the Weather Network's forecast, I can guarantee you those icebergs will be gone soon from the blue.
They looked like they were well on their way today.
Yeah, and on the some of the items that you have there, those are certainly things that we're working on, including at the region, and some of the issues that need to be resolved, like with composting for multi-unit apartments, is to have building code changes because the collection within the apartment is actually the problem there. Never mind the fact the free market won't pick up this stuff, but we're definitely working on it with the, I think by 2022, we can no longer send greens organics to landfill in Ontario, so just a few other things need to be put together for that. Anyway, thank you. Next up, Kate Pierce.
Mayor Jaworski and councillors, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Kate Pierce and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator with Waterloo Global Science Initiative, and I'm here today to offer my support of Climate Action Waterloo Region's proposed 80% reduction target in greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Let me just say that I do not believe that it is your responsibility to solve the problem of climate change or to provide a plan for how we will meet this target. What I do believe is that it is both your responsibility and your opportunity to enable the innovators and collaborators from across this community to address this challenge. The decision you make today on this proposal is not for myself or my colleagues or my children. The decision you make today is for my grandchildren. My wish is that they too get to experience Waterloo as the same vibrant, beautiful, and healthy community as we have today. My background and work is focused on community development, and I look at climate change and this proposal from a little bit different perspective. What I see is a complex problem that will have far-reaching impacts and ultimately require many diverse solutions. What I know from my own experience and work is that big challenges like this can also create the conditions where community members can collaborate, be creative, focus on solutions, and take collective action. Through my work with Waterloo Global Science Initiative, I have come to understand that our action or inaction to address greenhouse gas emissions and climate change will have a significant impact on our collective health and well-being as individuals, as communities, and as a society. Through WGSI's current work on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, I know that climate action is deeply connected to issues of equality, poverty, hunger, education, sanitation, peace, and justice, as well as economic development. And while it may seem daunting or overwhelming, I prefer instead to focus on all the opportunities that this is providing us. Yesterday, our WGSI team welcomed Dr. Catherine Wilkinson from Project Drawdown to our summit opening, where she highlighted some of the biggest challenges around climate change and some of our brightest solutions. Dr. Wilkinson spoke about how an entire system has created the challenge that we are facing and how it will take an entire system of solutions to address it. I see this challenge as an opportunity for Waterloo to be creative, to be compassionate, and to be collaborative. While many of the opportunities and solutions that Dr. Wilkinson described will reduce and sequester greenhouse gases, they are also meant to build a society that is more vibrant, more beautiful, more equitable, more prosperous, and one in which we are healthier and have greater well-being and more happiness. I consider myself fortunate to work alongside many of the organizations, experts, and community leaders who are here and who have developed this proposal. The data and research and reasoning provided by Climate Action Waterloo Region is comprehensive, widely accepted, and the reduction target aligns with others that have been put forward across our province and country. I believe not only that an 80% reduction target is the goal that we must commit to, but I also firmly believe that we have the innovative capacity here in Waterloo to achieve this. Waterloo is a community of innovators, builders, and connectors. I believe that we have the capacity within this city to develop and implement solutions that can benefit all community members, our economy, and our environment. By voting in support of this reduction target, you will help us ensure that Waterloo is a great place to live, to learn, to work, and to play for all the generations to come. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Kate, and I was happy to open the conference yesterday. And now that'll be on TV Ontario, will it not? Like with Catherine's presentation, it was just a fabulous presentation.
So yeah, so all of the opening notes and Catherine's presentation are available on the WGSI website and also through YouTube. We do live stream all of our events, and there's a separate event going on with TVO as well.
Okay, I will ask Anne-Marie to actually find that link and send it to all of council. It's simply wonderful, and a wonderful book, Drawdown. Yeah, thank you. Next up, delegation number 6, Laura Hamilton.
I've brought Nicole Langlois, my colleague at Divest Waterloo. I thought I registered both of us. I request your permission to proceed. Thank you. And we've dramatically cut what we're going to say, which was hard. Thank you for this opportunity to weigh in on how our community is responding to the climate crisis. I'm Laura Hamilton.
I'm Nicole Langlois.
And we're here as members of Divest Waterloo, a local grassroots organization that's all about shifting our financial investments, our collective resources, away from fossil fuels and into solutions, clean energy solutions and conservation solutions that will facilitate our transition to a resilient low-carbon future. We've been working for the last 4 years to create awareness and to build community in our region around climate action.
We are also the KW chapter of Faith in the Common Good, a national non-sectarian charitable network dedicated to assisting and inspiring religious congregations and spiritual groups of all backgrounds to take collective action in creating more sustainable communities.
Once we had understood the math of climate change and just how quickly we were racing toward 2 degrees of global average temperature increase, we formed Divest Waterloo and got busy organizing over 30 public education and engagement events in our region over the last 4 years. We've written to many of you, all of you actually, about those events, and thank you to those of you who participated and to those of you who wrote back to us. In 2016, we played a leading role in organizing the federal climate consultation for all 5 MPs in our region.
What we heard there was a sense of personal and collective responsibility for climate change. It pervaded the consultation, and we heard as well a deep desire for systemic changes led by government that might allow all of us to create a new world in the shell of the old. Ours was the best attended consultation in Canada, and it clearly demonstrated our community's desire for immediate action and ambitious leadership on climate change. That's you. We're here to applaud the accomplishments of Sustainable Waterloo Region, Climate Action Waterloo Region, and REAP Green Solutions as they have so successfully supported businesses and individuals in our region to take action to reduce their emissions and begin our transition to a low-carbon future. We're also here to encourage you to approve the proposed emission reduction target, but we also think we can and must do better. Since even the best efforts at energy conservation and individual emission reductions will be eclipsed by increasing population in the coming decades, it is imperative that government lead the way in shifting our economy, our transportation systems, and our electrical grid away from fossil fuels and toward renewable energy sources that will be sustainable for a more populous planet.
We call on our municipal governments to lead this change. Our children, my children, millennials expect you to lead the way. A couple of weeks ago, my kids were home, and we were all talking about waste and recycling challenges. And my 27-year-old daughter said, how can we continue to produce anything that we can't recycle? We've raised a generation who understand the challenges we face and who expect us to take action commensurate with their scale. This generation wants to live and work in a community that recognizes this. For these reasons, we urge you to approve the targets being presented this evening, but also to shorten the review period to 5 years, and to approach the review with the view to ratchet up our ambition, to ensure that ours is the most aggressive municipal target in the country.
I want to leave you with a quotation from an article from the New Yorker in 2015. It was written in the lead up to the Paris conference that led to the, culminated in the Paris Agreement. And it was an article about Christiana Figueres, who was then the head of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. It says, where capital goes over the next 15 years is going to decide whether we're actually able to address climate change and what kind of a century we are going to have, she said. She urged all those present to take this into account when making their own investment decisions and to do so publicly. What we truly need is to create a surround sound where no matter what sector you turn to, there is a signal saying, folks, we are moving toward a low-carbon economy. It is irreversible. It is unstoppable. So let's get on the bandwagon. We thank you for listening to us tonight.
Thank you. Questions for the delegation? Seeing none, thank you. And delegation number 7, who has 5 minutes to speak, Kai Reimer Watts. Kai Reimer Watts.
Thank you, Council. I think I'd like to mainly echo the last delegation that came up here. I absolutely believe that we need to meet the proposal that's being made here tonight, reduction targets, as well as exceed them. So just a little from my background, I've been in and involved with this region for quite some time. I grew up in the Mennonite community here. I finished a master's in climate change as part of the first cohort at the University of Waterloo, and I'm now this coming fall starting in the community psychology program at Wilfrid Laurier with a focus on climate change and sustainability. In the interim, I launched a documentary film around climate change and interviewed a lot of folks from this region and across Canada on the importance of action. I just wanted to end really with the context that we're making this decision in. I think others have spoken to this before me in terms of kind of the burden that is being put on young people. That is what first woke me up to climate change and got me more engaged as an artist activist. There's many signs that kind of go by us every day in the news media. These are just a few that I ended up collecting. The reality of both extreme species loss and extinction coupled with climate change and the displacement of people that could create is worth reflecting on. How do I change slides here? Do I just press a button? Okay, wonderful. And one of the points I wanted to make on that was that we, as a region, have been very generous in accepting refugees into this region. That's going to become an increasing consideration for Canada in the years to come. Something for Canadians to consider in setting ambitious targets. This is from the latest emissions gap report from the United Nations. Globally, our current policy trajectories are way off from actually meeting the 2-degree limit, which is already about double the amount of climate change that we're experiencing today. So I think it's important to recognize that this commitment, and the need for especially ambitious local leadership is so clear. That's part of the way that we can drive more ambitious leadership at the federal level in countries around the world. So I also just wanted to emphasize that young people are not sitting passively watching their futures get kind of tanked. A lot of youth are standing up and actually taking the federal government and other levels of government to court over this because it's jeopardizing their futures. So, this is a case of decades of negligence that has passed on a tremendous debt to younger generations. It's time that all generations show the kind of leadership that we need. To end on the positive note that absolutely is a huge part of this picture, I'm a huge fan of much of the leadership that has occurred in this region. I absolutely am proud to kind of stand behind this leadership. And it's important to recognize, as I think Sustainable Waterloo Region was mentioning, the massive potential, economic potential, employment potential in the renewable energy sector. These are from the International Renewable Energy Agency. 10 million jobs as of 2016. To me, even though it's exciting to see growth within this sector, when we're looking forwards to 2050, it just could be so much more. The type of engagement that we could have from across society, increasing employment and addressing other critical issues like social justice, could be massive if we really had government leadership. So thank you. I'll end on that, and yes, approve the target and go higher. Thank you.
Thank you, Kai. Questions from council? Seeing none, thank you. And that was the last registered delegation. I see Councillor Whaley is looking. Moving up?
I'll move over the comment if I may.
Okay, and Councillor Durrell seconds it. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Whaley.
No climate change deniers here tonight.
Because it's not a thing.
Because there's no such thing as a climate change denier anymore. You'll find that everybody gets that we're on the precipice, and the only people who say they're climate change deniers have another purpose, usually self-centered and dark purpose. So they're not welcome anyway. And I'm glad that we had you all here tonight, because I'll tell you a little secret: politicians aren't really great leaders, but we are great listeners. And what we do is we listen to the community about what is interesting and of interest to our population and our constituents, and we listen to them, and they actually lead us to the promised land. They actually lead us to the policy changes that make our city wonderful and our region wonderful. So thank you guys for your leadership. You have provided the leadership, and I think, as you'll see by the vote tonight, that as good listeners, we have listened.
Comments? Councillor Durrell, Councillor Maven.
I just wanted to thank all of you for sticking it out to 9:26 through all the rest of the stuff that we had to get through to get to this, and everyone made great points, and I really appreciate everything that you had to say. So thank you.
Councillor Maven.
And thank you, and through you, Chair or Mayor Jaworski. Incredible, the hope you give me, and I'll go into another thing about hope, but the carpet's still drying from the last time I did it. But bottom line is, the hope I feel in this room is incredible, and that's fantastic. Anna Marie, I don't know, I liked what Councillor Whaley said about big steps, and yet I saw examples of individuals being able to do and contribute, so everybody can participate at their own level. But as far as big steps, what do you think as far as a big step?
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, there are definitely incremental and bigger than incremental steps that we need to make within our region. We're not alone in needing to make those steps. And so in these next steps of the project as we move forward, I think that that's where we will really be looking together with our municipal counterparts, but beyond our municipal counterparts, to these innovative thinkers and collaboration within our community to find some solutions, be they technological or otherwise. And yes, there are large steps. So I mean, the ION was, I would say, quite a large step for this community a number of years ago, and that's at our doorstep pretty soon. So there is going to be a lot of work that we need to do across sectors, and it has to come. It will come, and we will start to map that out through this backcasting process that will come over the next couple of years, and we'll come back to council as well.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, I do think that things like continued advocacy for the all-day two-way GO, which will be electrified, that's key. Certainly from a transportation standpoint, you think of all the people stuck on the 401 from Waterloo region, that would be one. And if I reflect back on Catherine's presentation from yesterday, she gave a top 20 list of how to bring back the temperature 2 degrees Celsius, and the one that really struck me was that of 8 of the top 20 are food related. So to David's point about different diets and stuff like that, there's literally something everybody can do, but it's going to involve, I can't remember whose presentation, but it's going to involve change at a personal level, municipal level, corporate level, everywhere. But anyway, good book she had there. Anyway, I think we've had great discussion. We have a motion on the table. All those in favor? That would be all of us. Well done, team. Team community. But wait, there's more. Item number 12. Consideration of notice of motion from previous meeting. Councillor Henry had filed one. He asked us to move forward with it. We do have a delegation to speak to it as well. And I think we'll just let the delegation speak. And I have Matthew Thiessen and John Coco. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mayor and members of Council, for allowing us to speak tonight. My name is Matt Thiessen. I am the chair of Waterloo Sustainability Advisory Committee. I've worked in the local sustainability network for 6 years, and I'm a lifelong resident of Waterloo region.
And I'm John Coco. I'm on the Sustainability Advisory Committee, and I've been in the region for over 30 years and working in sustainable buildings for all that time.
So given the conversation we just had, this is obviously a fantastic agenda item, and we're really encouraged to see the city put together this motion and move it forward. We're really glad that it is showing that municipalities are a key part of climate change, not only in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but also in energy consumption and in your own assets, future-proofing the building that you have and the building stock that you have. It's critical that these decisions are made now. We're talking about a 2050 timeframe for climate change, but the decisions that we make on the buildings we're building today will still linger over that time period. It's important to note that Councillor Henry's motion only spoke to the municipally owned buildings, but we think this is a catalyst for change in the community as well, and the impacts that the city can use as a showpiece in its own buildings would have impact elsewhere. But energy efficient buildings from the city will help showcase the city's commitment and set the tone for buildings throughout the community. I think it's also very important to look at this from a taxpayer perspective, because we often get this idea that green buildings or efficient buildings have a higher price tag attached to them. And I would say to exercise council's fiduciary duty, but not to do that just on the purchase price of a building, but look at the life cycle cost that includes energy costs of the buildings over the length of time you are prepared to operate the building, as well as maintenance cost. And when we put that together, that often paints a much more convincing picture for green buildings. At the end of the day, energy prices are not within your control, but energy consumption is. Those are design standards on the building, and you have the opportunity to shift that.
So while we're talking about sustainable buildings, we're not talking just about the energy use in the buildings and the greenhouse gas emissions. We're also talking about the human factors that are impacted by the environmental quality within the buildings. So people that are working in those buildings and their well-being is just as important. And it's been shown time and time again that green buildings with good indoor environmental quality can make sure that people are satisfied with their work environment and are there to and are productive while they're there. Because productivity in the building can outweigh the costs of energy by a factor of 100 easily. Meeting the environmental goals and this sustainability for the buildings starts not with the operation of the building, but right at the RFP stage. And this is something that needs to be done in the beginning. You can't tack it on afterwards because it adds a large cost and provides very little benefit after the fact. You've got to have it there in the beginning. We, as the Advisory Council, have already started working with staff to try and help them put sustainability language into their RFPs and provide the guidance in that way, and we look forward to being able to help them in any way that we possibly can to move these sustainable buildings forward. Within the building sector, we do have quite a number of examples in the region already that have been designed by people in the community, built by people in the community, and operated by people in the community. So we're showing that not only is it are we following from elsewhere, but we also have the ability right here in the community to do that. The region was recognized as an intelligent community in 2017, and as the Waterloo website says, we want to take and show that intelligence, not only the technological advancements that we can do here to show it globally, but this is our chance to take that technological intelligence and use it right here at home. So everybody, I think, recognizes the regional courthouse, and their energy use is down by about 50% over a standard building. We've been doing this for a long time. This building, the Green on the Grand, was built in 1996, and it used, at that point, 50% less than a code-built building. So it not just, you'll see some other numbers that look a little bit different, but this 50% was better than code at that time. And again, designed locally, built locally, operated locally. Over 30 years, we've now moved from 50% savings to net positive on the energy side. So the Evolve building that Tova was talking about is going to give us huge savings that way. Cities are already doing this. So where the City of Waterloo has a guideline for LEED Silver in their buildings. The Cambridge City Hall, for example, is a LEED Gold building, using about 40% less, or paying 40% less on their energy bills. This is another building that I was involved with. We did the Green on the Grand that I talked about. Grander View then said, let's take that number of 125 kilowatt hours a square meter and cut it in half. So 10 years later, or sorry, about 15 years later, not only was the building built, but its performance is actually monitored and shown to work at about 70 kilowatt hours a square meter. So it's quite doable, and the costs of those buildings were not any higher than standard buildings, which is proven by the fact that they're fully leased out and people are actually using them. And I know this building, for example, was built at about $250 a square foot, including all tenant improvements, which is very comparable to anything that's built inside. I also spoke a little earlier about how important it is for people in the building. The University of University of Berkeley has a tenant acceptance survey, and this building has scored over 85% in all categories except noise, and that was dealt with, but the acoustics. So not only was the building energy efficient, but it also met all of the other sustainability goals. And it's not just office buildings that we're talking about. So the regional EMS building, for example, is using 68% less energy than a typical building of that use pattern. And I think that's...
So these are some great examples of what's possible right from our own region. And to conclude, I think a revised green building policy would strengthen and advance the city's corporate commitment to climate change and aligning with the target that we've just set, and long-term asset management in a fiscally responsible way. So we just wanted to make it known that the Sustainability Advisory Committee strongly endorses the motion and encourages its adoption, and is ready, willing, and able to support Council's direction to staff in the development and implementation of the green building policy. We look forward to carefully monitoring the progress of this motion to see that the action aligns with best practices and with the spirit of the motion, and thereby ensure that proper value is obtained now and for ongoing taxpayer dollars. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions for John and Matthew? Councilor Whaley.
Not a question, but I give you a challenge. You guys have been just rock stars on the Sustainability Committee. We're so lucky to have you there. Your expertise, your passion has been so remarkable. It's a brand new committee, and we have high hopes for it at the city. And I'm so encouraged that the staff here at City recognize your skill sets and have actually encouraged and invited you to participate in policy decisions here. That's the first that I know of. I'm so darn pleased about that. It's really great. The challenge is the fact that in the next couple of years, the city has two major buildings coming online: a new library, a new senior center. Tens of millions of dollars will be spent by the city, and you know, I encourage you to do your work with the city. And I encourage staff to reach out and recognize your skill set and the contribution you can make, and we can really make a difference on these two buildings. And you'll be showing pictures of our two buildings in upcoming slide presentations.
Seeing no further questions, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
So we have a motion that needs to be put on the table, and I know Councillor Whaley was keen on that, and seconder by Councillor Burke. Any comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That would be all of us. Thank you, and special thank you to Councillor Henry. Applause night. Thank you. Thank you, Tova. Special thanks to Councillor Henry for working this through. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight, but with it being Earth Day / Earth Week, that it's prudent that we do it tonight. So, thank you. And you're welcome to stay because there is actually more. But thank you all. Next up, so we have some information from the region. Under new business, I don't believe there's any delegations unless Glenn wishes to speak. Items removed from the consent motion, none. Staff report. Other business, and I know Councilor Maven has an item here. Councilor Maven?
Thank you, Mayor Jaworski, and I think you have a copy of the motion I'd like to move tonight. And hopefully I'll get a seconder, and hopefully it'll be agreed. You can get it?
Should be the white sheet you have there. Seconder, second by Councilor Burke. Okay, so moved by Councilor Maven, second by Councilor Burke.
Yeah, and take out the May 7th and make it the May 14th FNSB meeting. That's probably appropriate.
Just to strike it, that you just want the following information?
Just May 14th. Yeah.
Oh, May 14th. Okay, wonderful.
Certainly.
Oh, do you have this with you? Okay. Well, let's. Councilor Maven has the floor currently. Speaking to it. Go ahead. Oh, okay. To Councilor Durrell. Over to Councilor Durrell.
Okay. I'm just wondering, Councilor Maven, or through you, Mayor Jaworski, to Councilor Maven, you've talked to staff about this and this is possible? I just don't know how much work this is.
I think you'd have to ask staff that.
Okay.
Yeah, we will ask staff. I'll look to staff, see what's the work effort required in these 5 questions.
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, we should be able to bring it back for the May 14th Finance and Strategic Planning meeting.
Wonderful, thank you. Further questions? Okay. Further commentary, please, go ahead. Oh, yeah, okay, so we got it moved and ready to go. Second by Councilor Burke. No further commentary. All those in favor? It's all of us, thank you. No problem. Enactment of some bylaws. Somebody keen on some bylaws? Councilor Veith and Durrell are. All those in favor? Okay, all of us. Motion to adjourn. Councilor Veith. Councilor Burke. All those in favor? We didn't mention the Button Factory. Well, this week, Friday. After the fact, Ootla.
Everyone is welcome to come to one of the greatest fundraisers in Waterloo in 2018. It's called The Owner of the Lonely Art. Councillor Whaley, you always get a piece every year.
I got my household art from Ootla.
Amazing. Okay, so it's going to be an awesome event. It's our only fundraiser at the Button Factory, so it's important that we support it because it is our Waterloo Arts organization. Tickets are only $30, and you can find them at the Button Factory website, link through. Thank you, Mayor Jaworski. Will you be there?
I was there, and I have a call out to Councillor Kennedy if Councillor Kennedy happens to be attending, because in her
at the Button Factory?
Yeah, in her submission for Council for a Day, it included stuff that included art as well, and fundraising with art as a means for supporting homeless people. So I was wondering if she might be there.
She has a full schedule, ballet pictures or that night.
She has real
yes, there is a full schedule, but we'll see if we can fit this in.
Well, you might just
get the mayor asks, she will do it.
Well, we might just get the mayor. We'll see. We'll play here.
Yeah,
wonderful.
We need a babysitter that night too, Mayor Jaworski.
Oh, I can make money. Excellent. Business license. Sounds be true. Okay, thank you all.